If you see the wonder of a fairy tale, you can take the future, even if you fail. I believe in it. Something good in everything I see. I believe in angels. When I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream. I have a dream. A fantasy to help me through reality. And my destination makes it worthwhile, pushing through the darkness till another light. I believe in angels, something good in everything I see. I believe in angels. When I know the time is right for me, I'll cross the street. I have a dream. I'll cross the street. I have a dream.
Warm greetings and Jai Jagat to one and all. Education is a worldwide emergency, and urgent action required today, not tomorrow. Therefore, today we join hands with all to work together towards ensuring foundational literacy and numeracy for all children, and do it in months, not just decades, by using disruptive methods which have been used to learn quickly. There is no education without foundational skills. So let us step up the act of making everyone literate together. And in doing so, let's make FLN universal. Let us feel free to communicate and interact with each other, pondering over disruptive FLN foundational literacy and numeracy, along with greening of education. With this thought in mind, I would like to welcome all our esteemed guests, our management, all the participants here from 45 plus countries and 27 states of India to the massive open online training being held to enhance teachers' motivation and practical skills to accelerate FLN. We accord a very warm welcome to the founder, Devi Sansthan, a former economist, the World Bank USA, PhD from Cambridge University, UK, Chief Advisor, Academics, City Montessori School, Lucknow, the world's largest school. The lady herself, who gave a deep thought to education for all and introduced us to this beautiful program. Let us hear from Dr. Sunita Gandhi.
Dear educators from across the globe, this is our very first MOOT, Massive Open Online Training. And I'm delighted to welcome you on day 2 of the MOOT events. Today, we are going to have numeracy in the first session, followed by literacy in the second session, that in Indian Standard Time would be 2 p.m. Then we have one more session of numeracy, and that's the last session. That'll be from 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time till past midnight, that is 12:30 a.m. tonight in India. But please convert this to your own time slots in your own countries. There was some confusion yesterday, and that's natural. But I would hope that today everybody will be able to get the hang of it. We're also getting the hang of it because massive open online training, who would have thought that it is possible to train masses with such skills as interactive learning, and one that can be seen as active learning, activity based learning, so many ways to describe alpha. But perhaps it is a combination and a lot more, and we hope you'll think of it as a lot more. But nonetheless, the idea that you can actually train masses online is itself quite a doubtful concept. We ran it yesterday as a litmus test, and today again we're learning from it. But from the feedback that we got yesterday, and I hope you will get a similar feedback today, that you found that there were many takeaways for you, and that you actually found this refreshing and different. So at the end of this, as with any workshop or seminar, we'd love to have your feedback. There is a survey we're calling quiz, and that has some 8 or 9 questions that are opinion questions about your feedback on today's first session's outcome for you and your opinion of that. And the other is a review of what you're learning today. So we hope for you to be really actively engaged, to listen carefully. And it's always a joy to get that certificate at the end. Many of the teachers were posting their certificates so beautifully. And the condition is that if you get 50% and above, you get a certificate of participation. And if you get 80% above, you get certificate of accomplishment. So I hope that you are going to be, not just because we're asking you, but actually thoroughly enjoying the sessions, and therefore being able to answer those questions at the very end. Like to say that literacy and numeracy, and foundational literacy and numeracy, as it is always mentioned as foundational, are foundation for the rest of learning. When children do not have these foundational skills, they suffer its consequences for the rest of their lives. In the past, it would take a long time for people to become literate and numerate. And even today, it's taking a lot longer than we would like to see. In the schools worldwide today, 70% of its children cannot, at the age 10 or below, cannot read, write, or do basic arithmetic. And please don't assume because you're from elite private schools or private schools that your children are equally good at reading, writing, and arithmetic. This is a universal problem. We're talking about many countries in the West also, including United States of America, where 2/3 of fourth graders are unable to read at the grade level. So it's a crisis of huge proportions. And the question is, why are the children not learning? Of course, COVID blew a severe blow. But before the COVID also, data shows that about 60%, 53 to 58%, depending on the country, the children could not read, write, or do basic arithmetic, some countries even more. And even today, some countries are at 90% illiteracy for children of 10 and under. And these are skills that can perhaps be acquired a lot more easily. We in India will spend 1 year learning what we call swar, which are like the vowels, if you like. Then we spend another year learning consonants equivalent, which is a vyanjan. And then we spend another year learning matras, which are accents on top of the two. And so it's a little more complex than, say, English in terms of the number of letters and so forth. It has 52 letters and these 13 matras, and then a lot of other nuances. Even after 3 years of being in school, in grade 4, the children are having trouble reading with matras. So should it take this long? And this has been the subject of our research. So when I came back to India, after working 10 years for the World Bank, it was my desire to come back and help my family-run City Montessori School, which has been started by my parents in 1959, and it has been in the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest school in the world since 1999, and it's not been challenged since then. So growing up to a family of educators, I was blessed. I ended up doing physics as my PhD from Cambridge in the UK, and I ended up immediately almost after that as an economist at the World Bank, where I served for 10 years. So I think children have the capacity, but I must tell you that I was never such a good student as I appear to be from this data. I actually got very poor marks in grade 10. And before that also, I was not an outstanding student. I think all children are outstanding till they discover their own potential. They all have the potential to become outstanding, but our system of education is unfortunately holding back their potential by relative comparisons, by making some children feel they're better or stronger than some other children. And this happens way too early on. So there are many levels at which we need to address education. We need to bring out the pearls and corals and the gems hidden inside each and every child. We know they have them. We just haven't figured out a way to bring it out. And I think we can do much better. So the research work that I started here after coming back to India, that was in 2014, is when I took over as president of Devi Sansthan, Dignity Education Vision International, the organization we all represent here. And with that, we were creating a laboratory in the slums, in villages, and in budget private schools and private schools of primarily Lucknow, but also well beyond. So we have these laboratories across the country right now who are implementing what we call ALfA, which came out of this research of 8 years. ALfA stands for Accelerating Learning for All. That means for all. Special needs children, children who need a bit more psychological support, children who are growing at different bursts and spurts because they grow differently at different paces at different points in time. We must not judge the children and their potential too quickly, too readily. We must believe that they have enormous capacity and enormous potential. And every child can do so much better, regardless of what their starting point is. It's the mentality that we need to work with. It's their courage that we need to work with. It's their resolve that we need to work with. It's their grit, our belief that they can. And I think this is the biggest challenge. We often are reducing our children to class-wise constraints or limitations. We are creating, as they call, the glass ceiling way too early on. You're grade 5. Why are you looking at this grade 6 stuff? It's going to be difficult for you. We tell them it's going to be difficult for you, right? Mathematics is a difficult subject. Who said it's difficult? Today we'll find out it's fun, it's joyful. It's actually very easy to learn the foundational skills of numeracy and, of course, of literacy, which you'll be hearing about in the next session. The training is just mere 3.5 hours. Can you imagine that you can change the world after this with 3.5 hours of training in either of literacy or numeracy? And you can, because ALfA has proven its mettle. Though it came out as a pedagogy in 2022, which is a year ago, we got a call from Anita Karwal, the Secretary for Education of India's Ministry of Education. And she called me up and she said, can you please take up 2 low-performing districts of India, which are Shamli in Uttar Pradesh and Sambalpur in Odisha, 2 states of India. So that was really, for me, a joy and a pleasure to get that opportunity because we needed a bigger laboratory. We developed it in a smaller laboratory. Now we needed the challenge of a bigger laboratory. And believe me, there are so many challenges when you work with government schools. What we believe in private schools to be challenges are mostly mindset issues. Teachers' mindset, of course, teachers are more welcoming of ideas that help them improve their, well-being. They're open to ideas that help their children succeed and do well. But by and large, we all resist change. And the challenges are even more than that. So maybe the policymakers agree, okay, we'll do it. Sometimes reaching to the policymaker is the hardest. What we found is that teachers are more negotiable. And the teachers are more interested to take it up on their own as the process unfolds, they realize that this is actually accelerated. It's actually helping their kids learn a lot faster than they thought, and it's making them what they wanted them to be, which is to learn the 6 C skills of the 21st century, which are collaboration, communication, critical thinking, character, and the most important, character and world citizenship. So there's no other way to make people world citizens than to have children work with each other. So we give children the exigency, we give children the wherewithal, we give children the way to interact with each other throughout the day and become literate and numerate on their own. So you'll find out more. I'm not going to share much more than this. And to say that all the best and with the learning today, I hope you'll all be participating in this quiz with great enthusiasm. We're grateful to Quizzes as an organization that has supported us in being able to offer the quiz to teachers who are going to be part of this through the 2 days. Then 2 more days are coming up. On 14th and 15th, we'll be delivering literacy and numeracy training for the Hindi belt. It'll be instruction in Hindi and not in English. Please do not assume that because we are giving instruction in English, that this is about training in English. You can train in any language. This is just a way of communicating to you in a language that we can all connect with. So warm welcome, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please be very active on chat. We found this to be a perfect way to connect with each other. And as surprisingly for me also, we found that interactions were much richer than maybe even in a physical setting. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for bringing to life the essence of this program. Our behavior is fueled by 3 main sources: desire, emotion, and knowledge. Knowledge is the treasure of a wise man. It is power. All our activities should be governed by the light of knowledge. Let us light the lamp of learning to spread its radiance far and wide, followed by a speech from the Honorable Defense Minister of India, Shri Rajnath Singh Ji.
May this light spread far all over the world for peace and harmony. May the Lord keep this light always burning forever and ever. May this light spread far all over the world for peace and harmony.
आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। जब मुझे पता चला कि सुश्री गांधी शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में ऐसे प्रयास कर रही हैं, तो मुझे व्यक्तिगत रूप से बेहद खुशी हुई। देवी संस्थान परिवार के सभी सदस्यों, परिवार की मुखिया सुश्री सुनीता गांधी जी को अपनी हार्दिक बधाई और शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। A paradigm shift in FLN, how to make India foundationally literate and numerate in months, not years. निश्चित ही आज के समय में बड़ा रिलेवेंट है। फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी एक क्यू ह्यूमन राइट है। यह इंडिविजुअल से लेकर सोशल, नेशनल और इंटरनेशनल लेवल तक सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन के सबसे महत्वपूर्ण एलिमेंट में से एक है। हमें ऐसे प्रयासों की जरूरत है जो फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी को न केवल प्री पैंडेमिक की स्थिति में, बल्कि उससे कहीं ऊपर हमें पहुंचा सके। इस दिशा में मैं सुनीता गांधी जी को उनके कंसेप्ट और प्रोग्राम एक्सेलरेटिंग लर्निंग फॉर ऑल अथवा ALfA के लिए बधाई देना चाहूंगा, जो आप देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों में संचालित कर रही हैं। साथियों, इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से लोगों को 90 डेज में लिटरेट बनाया जा सकता है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में बड़ी संख्या में लोग इससे जुड़ेंगे और इसे सपोर्ट करने के लिए आगे आएंगे। यहां मैं एक और बात को रेखांकित करना चाहूंगा कि अगर पैंडेमिक ने हमारी अब तक चली आ रही शिक्षा व्यवस्था को डिसरप्ट करने का कार्य किया है, तो उससे उबरने के लिए भी हमको डिसरप्टिव टेक्नोलॉजीज का प्रयोग कर डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग और लिटरेसी की ओर आगे बढ़ना होगा। यह हमें ध्यान में रखना चाहिए। ऐसे में डिसरप्टिव लर्निंग की ओर ध्यान देना और उसे बढ़ावा देना आज की यह महत्वपूर्ण जरूरत है। यहां मैं सुश्री सुनीता गांधी की एक पुस्तक डिसरप्टिव लिटरेसी फॉर अर्जेंट ग्लोबल एक्शन के लॉन्च के लिए भी उनको बधाई देता हूं।
Thank you, Honorable Sir, for sharing your valuable ideas towards building literacy and numeracy to bridge misery to hope, and blessings for the initiative. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. Our prayers do make a difference. So let us make this difference and uplift the consciousness of the world by means of prayer. Please close your eyes and join your hands into the invisible and feel the blessings of God reaching back.
God guide me, protect me, illumine the lamp of my heart, and make me a brilliant star. Thou art almighty and powerful. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's not my father, it's not my mother, it's not my father, it's not my mother, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's not my teacher, it's not my teacher, it's not my teacher, it's not my teacher, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. It's me, it's me, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. Standing in the need of prayer. Standing in the need of prayer.
Beautifully said, and I quote, I used to believe that prayer changes things, but now I know that prayer changes us and we change things. With these words in mind, let us start the proceedings of the conference to bring about a change and accelerate learning for all. We once again welcome all the participants here from 45 plus countries and 27 states of India. And a gentle reminder for all to keep posting your thoughts and questions in the live comments. We will be addressing them. You will be receiving a certificate of participation, sharing of links, how to access e-learning materials, teacher guides, and toolkits at the end of the program, provided you are a part of the program till the closure. At the end, there awaits you an exciting quiz, which also rewards you with an achievement certificate, as the questions in the quiz will be from the program. We ask for your keen attention during the program. And now I would request our youth volunteer and master trainer, Tom Delaney, to take over for the introduction. Why ALfA?
Thank you so much, Samvida ma'am. And it's a real honor and privilege to be here with you all this morning and to be here with Samvida ma'am and Sunita ma'am. I know that today is going to be a really fun and interactive and exciting training. As I'm just pulling up my PowerPoint, I would like to request all of you to please introduce yourself in the chat if you haven't done so already. It's fantastic to see there's already lots of people introducing themselves. So if you can just post your name and which country you are from, and also if you're in India, which state you are from. That would be lovely. And as ma'am has said, it's going to be a very interactive session. There's going to be plenty of chances. We'll be asking you questions. Please respond in the chat. You also ask us questions in the chat, and we'll be responding. And some of the best comments that come in the chat, we'll be highlighting on the bottom of the screen as well. So please be active in the chat. And as we begin today's session, I'd just like to focus us on why ALfA, why we need this. As Dr. Sunita shared earlier, we are living in a literacy crisis at the moment. The COVID pandemic has set back our education system hugely. Now there are some 70% of children who cannot read, write, and do basic arithmetic. This is from a World Bank report looking at low and middle income countries around the world. So this is really shocking. Very warm welcome to all of you, and please keep posting your introductions in the chat. We'll be flashing them up on the screen. This is why ALfA was developed, to address this literacy crisis. And the conventional, the traditional methods of education, which take 2 or 3 years or even 5 years to teach someone how to read, these are not sufficient to address this crisis. So that's why Dr. Sunita started dreaming about this ALfA process when asking a series of impossible questions. Is it possible for a 5-year-old to read a newspaper? Is it possible for children to learn without a teacher teaching them? Can kids in grade 2 do a 4-digit subtraction problem, right? Now, all of these questions, they seem very difficult. They seem impossible. But as you'll be seeing in some of the video footage today, it's very possible. And already, some of you here are CMS teachers. It's already in place in 2 CMS campuses, coming soon to many more campuses. Other budget private schools and government schools are also trying this. So this is not an education that's specifically for wealthy private schools. It's for also budget private schools. It's for government schools. It's for people working in slums and villages. It's for everybody. So the training format today, I would like to dwell briefly on. We're looking at understanding the FLN crisis. We've already discussed that a little bit. We're looking at unpacking the ALfA process, comparing and contrasting what's the differences between ALfA and a traditional classroom. We'll be looking at how paired learning works, which is really the cornerstone of ALfA. Specifically, we'll be doing a lot of numeracy activities today. So if you don't have with you yet, I would request you to grab a couple of physical counters. So I've got with me here today, I've got ice cream sticks to represent 10s, and I've got matchsticks to represent 1s. So we'll be needing these for some hands-on activities throughout the day. So it need not be ice cream sticks and matchsticks. It can be absolutely anything. It could be leaves, pebbles, sticks. It can be beans, spoons, anything you can find in and around your house. You'll need maybe 15 or 20 each of 2 different items. And we'll be using those for many fun maths activities. We'll be looking specifically at how ALfA embeds the 6 C's, which we're talking about a lot these days: creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and so on. How it embeds this in the process. And finally, at the end, we'll be doing a quiz, and there'll be plenty of chance for you to give feedback. So thank you so much that you're introducing yourselves in the chat. That's wonderful. I'm seeing there's people here from many different states of India. Lots from Uttar Pradesh, some from Madhya Pradesh, Telangana. Fantastic. I think we've got a few people joining us internationally as well. So that's wonderful. Some from Mizoram. Fantastic. So the format of today's training session, there will be several videos that we're going to watch. We're going to watch some videos, and after each video, there'll be a space for discussion, right? So videos of classroom implementation. Then we'll be discussing as a panel, we'll be discussing some of the points, and you'll be sharing your thoughts in the chat box. We'll have an interactive discussion, and we'll do some hands-on activities, as I mentioned. So please be active in the chat. This is the overall structure of this 3-day conference, as ma'am was sharing earlier. We're on 10th March. This is numeracy session. In the afternoon here in India, we'll be having a literacy session, and then in the late night, we'll be having another numeracy session, mainly for our international participants. Then tomorrow, our policymakers conclave, so please be there as well for that. They'll be hearing from leading educationists around the world about the difference they're making in their context, and we're building towards a global literacy movement. So this is the overall structure of this 3-day session. As ma'am shared earlier, on the 14th and 15th of March, we'll also be having the same thing in Hindi. So definitely, we're all looking forward to that as well. I'm going to skip through this then, and we're going to start off with our first video of today. So looking at the ALfA approach to numeracy and why it's a revolutionary approach to maths. So please look carefully at the video. We want to hear your thoughts in the chat immediately afterwards. And I know this video will be quite inspirational. It's quite remarkable to see the efforts that children are making, how they're using hands-on materials to do above grade level maths in many cases. So it's going to be very interesting to see the process, how they achieve that. And all that in 45 days or less.
So we are going to cover module 4.
All right.
We know about tens and ones,
Yeah.
but we are going to learn it in a different way. So one snap means 1 once,
Okay.
right? And then
One
one
clap.
clap means 110,
110. All right.
right? So here we go.
$42.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, it's your turn now.
Okay.
Give me some bigger number.
Bigger number. All right.
61.
You are right. High five.
Yes. I want my children to try this. Would you like to try this? So let's get started. Start.
$555.
Excellent. Let's start one game. Okay. First, you will start. Okay. $431. Excellent. Now my turn. The game name is 100 tens and ones. Can we start? Yes. First, I will tell you how to play. Sketch pen is for hundreds. Okay. Ice cream stick for tens. And the matchstick is for ones. Can you make 154? 154? Yes. You have done wrong. I have said 54. You have 54. Yes, you have right. See. No. Shit, you are doing wrong. See. It just come here. Okay, can you write 154 on the copy? Yes. Okay, good. First my turn, then your turn. What is position of this shelf? Column D, row 4. Okay, now your turn. Where is this flower? Column see 5. Row 5. Excellent. Now your turn. Okay. Where this is duck. A column, row 2. Hello Anushka. Today we are going to do data handling. Okay. So, are we going to ask the questions? Yes. How many children like orange color? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 30 children like orange color. You are right. How many children like red color? Let I come. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 children like red colors. You are. I will make pictures and you will tell how many sticks I have used. Okay. How many sticks I have used to create this pattern? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have used 9 mastics to create this pattern. You are correct. Now you will ask. Tell how many I have used mastics to draw this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You have used 11 sticks to make this pattern. Let's check. Yes, you are right.
Wow, well, that was pretty incredible to see, wasn't it? Those young kids doing some quite tricky problems and in a very creative fashion, using their ice cream sticks, matchsticks, and a clapping and snapping activity. So let me ask you, what's something interesting and innovative that you noticed from that video about the ALfA process of teaching numeracy? What's something that you found fascinating, something that you found surprising? We want to hear your thoughts in the chat box, some of your reaction to that footage. And as we're waiting and looking forward to your responses coming in, let me turn then to Dr. Sunita, who obviously founded ALfA. So what do you find fascinating as you're looking at this footage again? Anything that strikes you from it about the ALfA process for numeracy?
Well, I feel that, it should be open to your own judgment, and we are going to look forward to your comments. But basically, whenever learning is joyful, it is a good thing. Whenever they are doing it on their own, they're touching, feeling, and that's the way they're understanding and assimilating. It is creating more mind connections than it would be just a teacher presenting from the front or even demonstrating from the front. The fact that every child is touching and doing, that's really critical. Sometimes difficult to do because materials can be expensive. So in ALfA, we're using very simple materials, and children can bring their own materials. They don't even need to have ice cream sticks and matchsticks. They can actually use pebbles, leaves, things they bring from home, spoons, pencils, anything at all. Any counter can be used for tens and ones. Any counter can be used for 100 or 1,000. And kids are so very inventive. And when they understand with this and not on their fingers, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they are understanding for real. The other thing that's really different is, as you might have noticed, that the children are talking to each other. So they're developing that articulation as to what they're doing. And that's really important because it's also clarifying for them what is that activity involving and what is it leading to. They're counting and double checking each other's work. That kind of instant feedback that they're giving each other. If a teacher gives feedback, it's really difficult because you can only give a class feedback. Individual feedback is impossible. So when you're working in a pair, there is that individual feedback. And it's instant, it's ongoing, it's helping each other, it's supporting each other, it's double checking each other's work, it's even making questions for each other. And I think this is something that really is doubling up, tripling up the amount of learning. So in the same time, that a teacher will say, everybody do X, whatever that might be. It could be like, everybody add, 45 plus 19. And then she goes around checking who has done it, who hasn't done it. And that itself takes away maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes of time. In the same 2 to 3 minutes, as you will see some of the activities we'll do, that children are making their own questions. And it's not necessarily 45 plus 19. It could be any other set of numbers I'm making for Tom, Tom's making for me. And in that same 2 minutes, we are probably making 10 or 15 questions that the teacher could only lead one question with. And this is where we save lots of time. This is the key thing. We are saving lots of time. How is it accelerated? How is it possible that in just 45 minutes, 45 minutes periods a day or 30-minute periods a day for 45 days or so, the children are learning grade 3 level mathematics within 45 days. And it doesn't matter what age they are. We underestimate the capacity of the children and younger children to assimilate cognitive-based processes. Actually, they can. They have been wired by God to do amazing things. But unfortunately, we are limiting them by our very old style notions, which we have to challenge and we need to overcome.
Absolutely agree with you. And I see from the comments, many great comments are coming in. Many of you are agreeing. You're really appreciating this active process of learning in which the kids are in pairs and they're using their hands. So I'm just going to read out a couple comments. Sakshi said, it's a fun, loving concept to teach numeracy. They learn to do calculations on their own on the basis of activities. Totally agree, Sakshi. That is the beauty of it. In ALfA class, this is Chanchal Mukherjee. Of course, in ALfA class, technique of learning is different. That's the beauty of the teaching learning process. It's deeply active and joyful learning. That was Suja. It focuses on enduring understanding. Okay. Samin Siddiqui has a good question. Sir, can you please tell me whether this process is effective in pre-primary also or not? So let me turn maybe to my left here and ask Samvida ma'am on this, because ma'am, it's happening in your campus, I think in grade 1 and also in
grade 1 and 2 grades, and now we'll be taking it up in the coming session in kindergarten also.
Okay, great. So in the coming session, you're going to be doing it in kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. But I think it has been used in pre-primary sections before in different sections of CMS, I think.
Not
yet. Okay. So I think, but I feel confident that it can be very much useful in pre-primary sections as well. So I'm saying yes, very different from traditional classroom. This is Usha, very different from traditional classroom. Student leadership, almost zero cost, student engagement, variety of teaching aids, active and collaborative learning, critical thinking. Yeah, totally agree, Usha. That's very good observation of all of those points. So great. I appreciate that you are enjoying it. You're deeply engaging with the footage. Now it's time for us to do an activity together. You saw in the footage, you saw this clapping and snapping activity. So now if you're there with a partner, maybe you can do it with them, right? You saw that the process is all about paired learning. So one child makes a question and the other child solves, and then vice versa. So here I am with Samvida ma'am. Ma'am, I'm going to clap and snap a number, right? And I want you all to please respond in the chat box what number I made, okay? And Samvida ma'am will also respond. So a clap obviously means 10, as we saw in the video, and a snap means 1. So I'm going to make a number. Please respond in the chat box what number I made. Okay, ready? So I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. What number was that? And then we'll also hear Samvida ma'am. What number was it?
We've started getting the answers. Ooh, bingo, Joanne.
I think some people are cheating here.
Kumar Saurabh.
Okay, and maybe
Nivedita Shukla.
Okay, great. So you all got that?
Firdaus, Soma.
Indeed.
Aparna.
It is
Chanchal Mukherjee. They're all getting
now,
it.
I appreciate that maybe the internet connection was a lag or something. Somebody is saying 31. But yes, it was indeed 32. Totally right. 3 claps and 2 snaps. So that was 32. So now, as a pair, I made a question. Now it's ma'am's turn to make a question for me.
Thank you, Tom. And here I'll again reiterate for our participants that over ahead the clap, it is 1,000.
100, sorry.
Sorry, this is 1,000. Sorry. On a shoulder, it's 1,000. Over a head, it's 100. 1 clap. When we clap in front, it is 10. And when we snap, it is 1. So now it's my turn. I'll be taking and Tom would be answering. And I request all the participants, you may please put your answers in the chat.
Okay, I think that may be challenging because ma'am did with low volume, but if you were paying close attention, hopefully you got it. So a bit tricky, a 4-digit number, but as you saw in the video, right, kids were doing 3-digit numbers, and in many classes they're also doing 4-digit numbers. So that's the beauty of this activity, is that kids can take it forwards, take it further on their own, right? And it's very flexible. Some of the pairs can be doing a 2-digit number, other pairs can be doing 3 or 4-digit numbers. It need not be that everybody is doing the same thing at once. In fact, that's the whole point, is that everybody can be doing different things. So I'm seeing in the chat, despite the challenging number, all of you have got it. Fantastic. 5,432. Exactly right.
Bingo.
You got it.
All of them have got it.
So you saw, yeah, 5,000s, 400s, 3 10s, and 2 1s. So let me ask you another question then in the chat. What do you think is the advantage of doing these sorts of activities, this clapping and snapping activity? Obviously, there are many ways we could teach ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. What is the advantage of doing this sort of activity? How is that helpful for children? And while I'm waiting for your responses in the chat, I'll turn also to Sunita to hear your thoughts. What you invented the clapping and snapping activity? You invented it. So why did you? What's the advantage of this type of activity?
Right. Thank you, Tom. That was quite good, seeing both you and Samvida. That pair was working beautifully together. Now imagine leaving them alone for about 10 minutes and how many numbers they will have made. 10 minutes. Normally we don't teach them 5,000 numbers in 5,000 very early on, right? But here class 1 children in her class are making numbers up to 9,999, and many of them want to go well beyond because we have not taught them what is for 1,000. So let's say this is 1,000. Now imagine 10,000 rather. Imagine the children going into 10,000. We are stopping them, you know, and these kids are having fun. They're just enjoying inventing their numbers and asking each other questions, and they're learning to take turns, which is a skill they do not have. They have the skill to raise their hands every time there's a question, ma'am. Or run over to the ma'am. You know, she's sitting like a teacher guide by the side. So you run over to the guide and say, I need help with this. Instead of that, they go to each other, firstly in their own pair. And then if they can't figure it out, they go to another pair. Say, can you help me? So what is the role of a teacher? You'll learn about that also later on. But the roles of the teachers are vastly different. And it is not the transaction of the teacher to the taught. The teacher merely teaches what is it you're expected to do? What is the task? So your task is to make numbers for each other. You know, you can use these sticks, you can use your paper balls, you can make your own crumpled paper balls, anything. Bring your counters from home the next day. Tomorrow we're going to do this fun activity with numbers. Okay, and you just start them off. You demo it for them. You do a demonstration in the front, and they understand how the two have to work together and how they're not to come to you. How you can sit in the corner. All the tables in Alpha classes are moved to the side. Teachers are not in the center. Children are not facing the teacher at all. They're facing each other, right? The teacher's not going around the class checking who's done what and how much you've done. Because the moment you do that, children look up to you and say, whoa, am I doing it right? They're kind of wondering because you're as a judge going around. Well, you may not be going as a judge. You may be going in support to help them, to see who's not learning. But actually, metamorphosis happens when they struggle. Let them struggle. Let them make wrong numbers. You made some wrong numbers. Did it matter? The fact that you actually were concentrating and trying to figure out what number, you know, Samvida ma'am had made. That is beautiful. You'll get something wrong, tomorrow you'll get something right. Something you won't figure out today, tomorrow you'll figure it out on your own. And isn't that when the light bulbs go on? Isn't that when children feel a sense of accomplishment every single day?
Absolutely. That is the beauty of it, that children are feeling a sense of accomplishment. And I want to share that I teach many children in a slum here in Lucknow. And one of the beautiful moments for me was when one of my students, Noor Jahan, her name was, she said, "Kisi ne mujhe sikhaya nahi, main khud seekh gayi." Right? She said, "Nobody taught me, I learned by myself." This was a girl who about 10 minutes earlier, she had told me, I can't do subtraction. I just hate it. I don't know how. I don't understand. And I said, give it a try, and we'll use our ice cream sticks and matchsticks. 10 minutes later, she was telling her friend, I learned subtraction myself. Nobody taught me. So it was really beautiful, and that's the beauty of the process. So I'm seeing lots of great responses are coming in the chat. So let me read out a couple of them. Nivedita said, it's maintaining concentration of the learners. How true, right? How boring it is in a class if we're just listening to the teacher lecture, just copying what the teacher is writing on the board. How much more engaging if we're working in a pair and doing an activity like that. Others are saying, Surbi is saying it's a fun way of learning for the students. Samin said, those who fear with maths or counting are also taking interest in counting because it's another terms of math. That's right. It's like maths often invokes fear in the hearts of people because they think it's just about equations, formula, and that it doesn't connect with life. But this sort of practical application, this sort of activity helps it really connect. Joanne is saying you can also ask students to decide what movements symbolize ones, tens, hundreds. Exactly. So kids can invent their own, right? You saw in that video, instead of using that, I think they were using this or something. They were using a different symbol for hundreds. So that's fantastic. Now, I want to show you another video next, right? Because some of you may be thinking, understandably, that okay, this is all very well for private schools, right? This is all, the footage was in English. You saw. So it's these are rich kids, or maybe they're coming from families who are already teaching them numeracy at home. You may be thinking, but does this process actually work on the ground level, in slums, in villages, in government schools? That's a very legitimate question, and I want to show you the next video, which will hopefully answer that question for you.
Let me provide a little bit of context to that. The video is from a district, Shamli, that I mentioned earlier to you, is a low-performing district of India, and of Sambalpur, which is basically in Odisha. So you will see these children and these teachers. In particular, we have taken footage from one particular classroom, grade 2, in a school called PS Kaidi. And all these teachers who have been implementing change in the government schools, they have been posting their videos made by themselves or their children. So these are not professionally made videos. They've been cobbled together from a WhatsApp group where they've been posting them. And you will see what is possible in just 45 days. They've gone beyond Nipun goals. Nipun goals are it's a mission by the government of India for the proficiency in literacy and numeracy, literacy with understanding and numeracy by the children of India. And it is a grade 3 level proficiency that every child should have. These are grade 2 children, and you will see that they're at grade 3 level or beyond in just 45 days. Is it possible? And after they finished this, and within the 45-day time frame, they went back to their textbooks for the whole year, and they completed those in the next 10 or 15 days, majority of them. So when they're following the process ALfA with paired learning, with interactions, with simple hands-on learning materials, we're seeing amazing results in the field, whether it be a village, a slum, or a city, or what kind of economic background they're coming from.
कोरोना से पहले बच्चे पढ़ नहीं पाते थे, उनको काफी दिक्कत करना पड़ रहा था।
जिस टाइम ये कक्षा 3 में आए थे, बहुत कमजोर बच्चे थे। कुछ बच्चे 2 अक्षरों वाले शब्द भी नहीं पढ़ पाते थे, कुछ को वर्णमाला का भी ज्ञान नहीं था।
जून की छुट्टियों में और कोरोना काल में जो भी इन्होंने पढ़ा लिखा था, सब ये भूल चुके थे।
लेकिन अब 2-4 बच्चों को ही छोड़कर जो डेली नहीं आ रहे, सभी बच्चे पढ़ने लगे।
इसके सहयोग से बच्चे पेयर लर्निंग में बहुत बेहतर तरीके से सीख पा रहे हैं। बच्चों का लेवल जो पहले 0 था, मात्र 15 या 20 दिन में बच्चे जो शेष हैं वो भी बहुत अच्छे से सीख पाएंगे।
जो बच्चे किताब नहीं पढ़ पा रहे थे, आज बहुत से बच्चे अखबार पढ़ रहे।
देवी संस्थान के कार्यक्रम जो चलाया जा रहा है ये FLN प्रशिक्षण वाला, वो काफी सराहनीय है। मैं बेहद खुश हूँ कि हाँ मेरे बच्चे पढ़ पाते हैं, कक्षा 1 कक्षा 2 सभी बच्चे।
तो रिजल्ट बहुत ही उत्साहजनक और सकारात्मक है। में आया अटेंडेंस बच्चों की बढ़ी है।
एक भेड़िया गड्ढे में गिर पड़ा, उसने बहुत कोशिश की पर गड्ढे से बाहर नहीं निकल सका। भैया हमारी चिड़िया रानी पिंजरे लाकर मैले बनाती, ऊंची डाली पर लटकाती, खेतों से पीता नाला।
पाठ का क्या नाम है?
चांद।
एक दूसरे से प्रश्न पूछोगे?
सूरज की रोशनी कहाँ आती है? सूरज की अपनी रोशनी है, क्योंकि सूरज एक तारा है। की ओर से व्हाइट हाउस, रक्षा विभाग, पेंटागन और विदेश मंत्रालय ने अलग-अलग बयान जारी कर अपना।
चलो बनवाओ संख्या कोई साथी से।
4405।
शाबाश। चलो बेटा साथी को सवाल बोलो कोई।
7050।
7050। 2163 घटाओ इसको। सही क्या बेटा, इसने घटा करके क्या संख्या आई है?
4887।
वेरी गुड, बहुत अच्छा।
105 के 6 में गुना करो।
वेरी गुड। एक लिखो स्कूल और एक बच्चा लिखो जगतपुर। शाबाश। घड़ी में टाइम बनाना है क्या बेटा? घड़ी में टाइम देख के बता दोगे? अब 5:45 बनाओ। शाबाश शाबाश, बहुत अच्छे। 10:05। सही बनाया बेटा इसने? सही बनाया, शाबाश। चलो सामान खरीदो दुकान से।
100 का बुलेट बम, 10 के बेटी बम, 10 के आलू बम, 5 के काजू दे दो।
कितने हुए?
125 जी।
ठीक है। चलो बेटा इनसे कोई आकृति बनवाओ।
आयताकार।
शाबाश।
The workload of teacher has reduced, and then copy correction work is also like somehow reduced because they are checking each other's work. For me, I will say the role of teacher has changed drastically in a classroom.
Children work here in pairs, so they used to go home and they used to work with their parents as pairs. So with this, I think parents have also been a part of ALfA.
What makes me most happy is that my daughter reads newspaper daily. I have seen children coming home and demanding their parents for toys, gadgets, and different expensive items. But to my surprise, my daughter insisted me, Papa, please buy English newspaper. You can say this for how many kids these days? It's very rare.
All the things that are being done in ALfA modules, they are eco-friendly as well as cost-free.
In ALfA, I've never been required to buy
any material from outside. My child's learning resources are made with waste items which are lying at home. She uses chickpeas, grams, newspaper and sticks to make her resources.
हमें ऐसे प्रयासों की जरूरत है जो फाउंडेशनल लिटरेसी को न केवल प्री पैंडेमिक की स्थिति में बल्कि उससे कहीं ऊपर हमें पहुंचा सके। इस दिशा में मैं सुनीता गांधी जी को उनके कंसेप्ट और प्रोग्राम एक्सेलरेटिंग लर्निंग फॉर ऑल अथवा ALfA के लिए बधाई देना चाहूंगा, जो आप देश के विभिन्न हिस्सों में संचालित कर रही हैं। साथियों, इस प्रोग्राम के माध्यम से लोगों को 90 डेज में लिटरेट बनाया जा सकता है। मैं आशा करता हूं कि आने वाले समय में बड़ी संख्या में लोग इससे जुड़ेंगे और इसे सपोर्ट करने के लिए आगे आएंगे।
Wow. Well, I don't know about you, but that footage, I've seen it a lot of times now, but it's always impressive whenever I see it again, isn't it? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the chat box. Have you seen grade 2 children do a 4-digit subtraction problem? Have you seen this before? Because I'm always impressed when I see them do it.
Say yes or
So
no.
what? Yeah, say yes or no in the chat. Have you seen it? Have you seen grade 2 children do a 4-digit subtraction problem with borrowing before? So Sunita, would you like to share a bit more about this process of how this works? Because working with government schools is often quite challenging. So how did it unfold in government schools? Obviously, there's many challenges there. There's often high pupil-teacher ratio. There's a lack of resources. But even there, children are excelling using this process. How is this possible?
The magic is God's creation. The magic is these kids are the same as any kids anywhere. They have all the potential, and minus all the distractions, they're actually able to learn better. When the teacher changes their belief, there are 2 beliefs they need to challenge themselves for. One belief is the belief in the potential of the child, that my children can do far greater. This ambition the teachers don't often have. They're limited because they've been given the syllabus that says, you shall teach such and such on such and such a date, and this is what you'll teach them. So we fill a whole year with it, and we still feel, oh, there's not enough time, because you're using methods that are archaic, that are not easy for the teachers to deliver on, that are not easy for the children to understand. So when the teachers change their belief that my children are capable of much more, and they're ambitious for their children, this is the number 1 quality of a teacher, along with passion, right? So they have to have that belief. Second belief they need to have is in the system of ALfA. When they have that belief, they don't mix approaches. Actually, with mixed approaches, you're going to get mixed results. At least you will not find out, is ALfA or is it something else? So if you want to really find out, is ALfA working? We're only talking about 45 days. We're only talking about 1 period a day for numeracy, another period a day for literacy. That's all. 45 days for numeracy, and you're getting results like you saw just now. Please try it out. Don't try to mix it, this idea, that idea. You can mix later on if you don't get satisfied. But this is not about taking an old pedagogy, fixing it at the margins, and now making it something like the mobile phone from a landline phone. Landline phone never, ever, ever, no matter how much you fix it, will never become the mobile phone today in your hands. It is a distinct pedagogy, a distinct methodology, ALfA. You have to try it for its own sake. Otherwise, you'll hit and miss, and it'll still take a lot longer. And this chap, the wonderful one person, the teacher from Shamli, his name is Arvind Kumar Balyan. He is a teacher of grade 2. So I want to acknowledge what he has done for his children. And there are many teachers who are getting successes because they're believing in the system. So those 2 beliefs are critical. Thank you.
Absolutely. So you're saying the belief in children's potential, whether you're a child from a slum, from a village, from a city, all children have a God-given potential. and the belief in that process, the process of ALfA, which involves trusting the kids, right? It involves relinquishing some of the control we have as teachers and trusting that in pairs, they're actually going to do the job and they're going to learn a lot. I'm seeing that responses are coming in. Many people are saying, no, it's
Not
really
even-
a magic.
Not
It's
even
quite
a
surprising.
single yes. They're all no's, if you see.
Yes.
And Tom, I would like to quote an example from my campus here.
Yes.
What ma'am said, we should not mix the process. ALfA was introduced in my campus in the month of November and initiated in the first week of December. And that is the time our first semester was over and we were going ahead with the second semester. We have books. The teachers had those books for each subject to complete. So they were a little apprehensive about it. If you're not going to touch the books prescribed in the syllabus at all, and we're going to continue with this process, when will we have time to complete the prescribed books? Because this would have got over in the month of January. February, we have our assessments, and we start with a new session in the month of March. Even I was a little apprehensive. But then, like Dr. Sunita Gandhi said, you got to believe the process. So we went ahead. You won't believe non-ALfA classes finished, if it's a particular chapter in maths, they took 20 days to complete that chapter. And these children, after completing the ALfA process, they took 4 days.
Incredible.
See the contrast here.
Wow. And I think that reminds us of a really important point. I think exactly the same thing happened in government schools in Shamli when I was there doing the training. Many of the teachers said, we have to complete the curriculum. Government se pressure aa rahe hain, curriculum ko complete karna hai. But of course, the point is not to complete the curriculum, right? We need to keep in mind the point of education is not to complete the textbook, right? Not to complete the curriculum. The point of education is genuine learning. So if we're completing the curriculum, but the genuine learning is not there, what's the point of that, right? There's no advantage there. And instead, if we have the time, let's do these activities. Let's trust the ALfA process. The textbooks will take care of themselves later. As ma'am was saying, once you've completed the ALfA process, the textbooks will be done in a breeze. They'll be done very swiftly. So let's trust the process.
Yes, let's trust the process and let's try it out wholeheartedly and fully, because we've tried out so many things. We get an idea, sometimes, it comes from the West, sometimes it comes from the East. We say, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Let's just try it out. Why not try out ALfA? When somebody's making a claim as big as this, that 45 days, I mean, obviously, you either believe it or reject it. You can't be in between, right? So try it out fully. That's what I'd say. But in addition to that, I think what Samvida ma'am said, we found this to be often the case wherever they've tried out ALfA. ALfA is very new, as I mentioned to you. It came out of 8 years of research. So we started in 2014 with our work with the slums and the villages. And that was a laboratory that we used to understand the dynamics of how children learn. Of course, we have been engaged in education for all our lives, but this was very special because we posed some very, very difficult questions and very different questions. For example, a child who knows nothing, not even a single letter, can they read a newspaper in 30 days of contact? Just 30 days. And that also 30 minutes or 15 minutes a day. Many children have done it in 20 days. Some have done it in 12 days. You will not believe this. The potential is enormous. We were just teaching them the wrong way. ALfA is neither phonics, nor it is whole language. It is ALfA. And try out ALfA. It is magical. And to see these kids come up with their own learning, you are going to be relaxed. As teachers, you don't have to do your planners anymore. And this is what we heard from the implementation in Samvida ma'am's campus and the other campus, Ma'am Batra and Ma'am Banerjee are running City Montessori School, Gomtinagar Campus 2. The coordinators, Richika ma'am and Smita ma'am for class 1 and class 2, and Sharmishta ma'am for the coordinator for Aliganj 2, Samvida ma'am's campus, and the teachers, Ritu and Shangri-La. So I know all the teachers' names also in the other campus, but for the moment, just to believe that these teachers have reported on their own that after they did this 35, 40 days of ALfA and completed the ALfA materials are very, very thin. We are talking about mere 28 to 32 pages for literacy, reading part, and 12 pages, that's all, for writing, and 28 or 32 pages, depending on the different versions, for numeracy. That's all. Can you imagine? You're getting to grade 3 level numeracy in 28 or 32 pages.
Incredible.
Have you ever heard of that as well? Yeah, we have these thick workbooks. Government children have 180, 200 pages workbooks. We are saying that one module of ALfA, which is the very first module in numeracy, it is a half-page module, that's all. And it goes from 0 to 10. It teaches the concept of 0. It teaches numbers 1 to 10. It teaches even and odd with just half a page. Teaching numbers 1 to 10 in the workbook of government workbook is 46 pages. And even after that, do the children know their concepts? And this half a page done twice or thrice in maybe 2 or 3 periods maximum, they are learning much more because they're much more on task. It is not a transaction of teacher to the child. It's child to child, and it's touching, feeling, doing themselves. And it's 10x, 10 times faster than the traditional system.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm seeing many of you in the comments are appreciating it. Some people are saying it works like magic. Wow, fantastic. It's a wonderful way to learn. Totally agree. So now it's time. We've seen some of the footage from the classroom. We've seen some grade 2 kids doing very impressive maths. Now it's time for us to do it as ourselves. So if you haven't yet, please go into your kitchen, grab some spoons, grab some pens from your desk, grab at least 15 or 20 each of 2 different objects, right, which we can use as counters for our maths activities coming up. Now I'm going to first show you a video in which there's a short animation demonstrating this process in more detail of addition and subtraction. Then we'll also be looking at multiplication, division, and other activities later on. So yeah, I'll be sharing this video with you. Please watch it carefully because it shows the mechanics of how it works. And the beauty of the process is things like carrying, borrowing, these abstract concepts can be taught really effectively using concrete objects, and it makes so much more sense. So let's watch the video, and then we'll be doing these activities ourselves with our hands-on materials.
Okay, I want to share that this is all for free. You don't have to pay for this. Just take the quiz, and after that, you'll be able to access our materials on request. In the quiz, there's one question, whether you want our materials. We're not going to give it if you don't want it. What's the point, right? And it's an offering, a gift to the world. We have researched it. We know it's working. It's a gift to everyone. So please treat it as a gift, precious, from all of us.
We have understood how ALfA numeracy works by seeing classroom footage and looking through the books. Now it's time to give some hands-on activities a try to experience the power of ALfA firsthand. You will need 2 different types of objects to represent tens and ones. For instance, you could use ice cream sticks, leaves, or pebbles to represent tens, and matchsticks, rubber bands, or buttons to represent ones. In this video, we'll show questions using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. Please pause the video now and get at least 20 each of 2 different items. You will also need a couple of sheets of paper and a pen. Please don't just watch the video, do the activities yourself with your counters. Start by doing an addition problem, like 25 plus 17. First, let's represent 25 using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. How will we do that? Feel free to pause the video to get it out. In fact, keep pausing the video whenever you need to. That's right, 2 ice cream sticks and 5 matchsticks. Now we'll get out 17. How do we represent that? You got it, 1 ice cream stick and 7 matchsticks. Now we are going to add them together. We'll start with the matches. If we bring them, how many will we have? Exactly, we've got 12. So what will we do with 12 matchsticks? That's right, we need to exchange 10 matchsticks for an ice cream stick. That still leaves us with 2 matchsticks. Now we can group the ice cream sticks together. So how many have we got? You got it, 4 ice cream sticks. We also had 2 matchsticks from earlier. So what's that in total? Correct, 42. You just experienced how children solve a 2-digit addition problem in the ALfA process. You can see the concrete to abstract approach in action, with children beginning by moving and exchanging the counters, but then the written work makes so much more sense afterwards. The extra ice cream stick made from 10 matchsticks is what we call carrying. In a classroom, children would be working in pairs and making many more such problems for each other. Now let's try a subtraction problem using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. Suppose we are doing 45 minus 19. First, how can you represent 45? Feel free to pause the video to get it out. That's right, 4 ice cream sticks and 5 matchsticks. Now we need to take away 19. How will we do this? You're right, we can't take away 9 matchsticks from 5 matchsticks. So what will we do? You got it. We have to take change for an ice cream stick. We can exchange it for 10 matchsticks. Now we can subtract more easily. We had 15 matchsticks and we removed 9 to leave 6. We had 3 ice cream sticks and we removed 1 to leave 2. So that gives a total of 26. You can see that an ice cream stick was exchanged for 10 matchsticks, the process we call borrowing. Again, the hands-on activity makes the concept and process very tangible and understandable.
I would like to add something very important here. ALfA is about greening of education too. We talk about the low carbon impact. We are talking about books here. Ma'am mentioned the booklets, a number of pages, but for my campus, we didn't have any hard. We had only the e-learning material, which was taken up in the classes. The children would do the activities with their pairs. At home, they would do a recapitulation or build on their learning in their notebooks. Parents were just not aware what was happening in the school. And also one thing, how did we involve the parents into it? Then at the end of the month, ma'am gave us an idea, and this term has come from Dr. Sunita Gandhi, town hall. It was like an exhibition, an open day, which we do, where all the art and craft activities, literary, maths, they were all exhibited. Every small thing was celebrated on that day. And children also displayed, like the teacher does the demonstration, how the work is done in the class. The children were pairing with their parents, they were demonstrating, and the parents were taking turns along with them. It was a beautiful sight, and I'll tell you, it was truly magical, like all of you are saying. Thank you. Over to you, Tom.
Wow, thanks, ma'am, for sharing that. So as ma'am was saying, all the materials we're using are very low cost or zero cost, and they're also biodegradable or recyclable. We're not using plastic toys here. So as you saw in the video there, the process of addition, subtraction, it becomes very simple when we're using concrete objects. Children who struggle to understand what is carrying, what is place value, what is borrowing, how does it work, they understand at a much deeper level using these concrete objects. So I hope you've been to your kitchen. I hope you grabbed some spoons or pens or leaves or pebbles or anything, right? And you're ready to, if you're with a partner, you can give them a problem and they will solve, and vice versa, right? I'm about to do the same with Samvida ma'am. And
what if you don't have a partner?
If you don't have a partner, then maybe you can just give yourself a problem. You can imagine yourself with an imaginary friend, and you can also, what we do often in our classes, or kids do for their homework, they have these puppets. So they will do a little role play with themselves, playing the two roles, one posing the questions and one answering them, and then swapping roles. So I hope you've got your materials with you, and you can share a problem with your partner, share a question, or else you can solve a problem that I'm giving Samvida ma'am. So Samvida ma'am, the pressure is on you, because we've just seen grade 2 children doing 4-digit subtraction problems. So that's what I'm about to give you, a 4-digit subtraction problem. No pressure. Now, of course, the main point is not to solve the problem per se. The main point is using these hands-on materials to solve in the way it would be done in an ALfA classroom. So the problem I'm sharing with her, in case you can't see it clearly on screen, I'm putting in the chat box as well. It's 4,361 minus 2,574. So, ma'am, you can start it off, and all of you who are watching, please, it need not be the same problem. You can make some different problem, some different question, and share with your partner for them to solve. So ma'am here is taking, in our case, what we've got 4 different objects. So we're using matchsticks for ones, we're using ice cream sticks for tens, and we're using a bundle of ice cream sticks for hundreds, and we're using these wooden spoons for thousands. Now, of course, it need not be this. You can use absolutely any objects, totally your choice. If you've got 4 different objects, that's great. You can do a 4-digit problem like this. So, ma'am, go for it. And talk us through your thought process as you go. All you who are watching, please use your own objects. If you don't have four different objects, you can just do a 2-digit problem. That's totally fine. Right? Ma'am is going to step us through the steps of this here. And you can imagine if I am ma'am's pair, I can be asking her questions throughout. So, ma'am, how many wooden spoons do you have out?
4.
Okay, great. So that's 4 thousands.
Yes.
And how many hundreds do you have?
I've got 3. So
Okay.
it's 300.
300s. And how many tens?
60.
Okay.
6 tens.
6
Makes
tens.
it 60.
Okay. And how many ones?
I'm yet to take ones. It's 1.
Okay, great. Okay, lovely. So what's the next step? Okay, and if you've got your own concrete objects there with you, as I hope you do, please pose another problem for your partner, right? They can solve and then swap roles. That's what the kids are doing in pairs. They're making new questions for each other and they're swapping. So let me ask you, as a role, in my role as a pair, so you've got 1 matchstick here, right? We need to take away 2,574. So can you remove 4 matchsticks from 1 matchstick?
No, I cannot do that.
Okay. So what are you going to have to do?
So I think in that case, I'm going to convert my 110 into ones.
Okay, great, very good. So she's going to convert her 10 into 10 ones. This is a process we call borrowing. And I'm going to act here as ma'am's writing partner. This is what the kids often do as well, is one partner is writing while the other partner is doing the hands-on work. So you can see here that ma'am, she had 6 ice cream sticks initially. Now she's only got 5, right? So I'm going to cross out my 6 and put 5 there instead, because she used to have 6, but she's now exchanged 1. So she's got 5 left. And now she has, how many matchsticks do you have now, ma'am?
I've got 11 now.
Now she's got 11 matchsticks. So I'm putting another 1 there. She's got 11 now. Okay, ma'am, that's great. Now, how many ice cream sticks do you have?
5.
Okay. And how many do you need to give away?
You meant matchsticks.
Sorry, ice cream sticks.
No.
How many?
Matchsticks.
Okay. So you've got 11, right? So
Yes.
how many do you need to remove?
I need to remove 4.
Okay, sure. So can you take them away?
3, 4.
Okay, fantastic. So you've removed 4. Okay, great. And how many do you have left?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, so 11 taking away 4 leaves 7 matchsticks. Great. Now let's move on to the ice cream sticks. So how many do you have and how many do you need to give away?
I have 5.
Okay.
I need to take away 7.
Okay, so what will you have to do?
I'll have to convert.
Okay. Convert the hundreds into 10 tens. So I hope all of you who are watching, you've got your objects from your kitchen, from your drawer, and you're doing a problem yourself.
All of this is 10, but you don't need to take this one.
Yeah.
So we've exchanged 100 for 10 tens. So now, as ma'am's writing partner, I'll note she used to have 300s. Now she's only got 2 left. And she used to have 5 tens. Now how many tens do you have?
15.
Now she's got 15 tens. Okay, my writing is getting a bit messy. Sorry for that. Okay, so now how many do you need to remove?
7.
Okay, great.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay, wonderful. How many do you have left now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay, 15 taking away 7. You've got 8 left. Fantastic. Great. What's the next step?
Now we come into hundreds.
Okay, great.
So I have to take 5 hundreds away from 2.
Okay.
And I have only 2 hundreds with me.
Okay.
So I'm going to convert my 1,000.
Fantastic. Great. So she's converting her 1,000. And you can see that we need a lot of ice cream sticks for this process. But of course, it need not be ice cream sticks.
8, 9,
Wow.
10.
Okay, great. So how many hundreds do you have now?
I've got 12.
12 hundreds. And how many thousands do you have left?
3.
3 thousands. Okay, perfect. So now can you take 5 away from 12? Lovely. So how many do you have left now?
7.
7. Okay, 7 hundreds left. And now let's look at the thousands. How many thousands do you have?
I've got 3.
Okay,
Now
how many do you
take
take
away?
away?
2.
Okay.
So I need not borrow anything
Need
from
not borrow
anywhere.
anything. Great.
I give him at 2.
You need to give away 2, right?
Yeah. So I've taken 1 and
Okay.
the other 1.
Okay, fantastic. So how many do you have left now?
1.
Okay, beautiful. So in total, how many do you have left now?
I've got 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
787.
Wow, fantastic. Well done.
Thank you.
And in a classroom, now we would be swapping roles. Samvida ma'am would be posing a question for me and I would be responding. I hope you're sitting there. If you have a partner, you can pose a question for them and they will pose a problem for you. That would be lovely.
Children learn faster.
Absolutely. So let's hear your thoughts in the chat box, what you saw about this process, right? We as adults, sometimes we're slow learners, right? And we're going through this. We're going through this gradually, right? Deliberately. I know ma'am could have sold that in a jiffy, but we're going through it gradually to show you the process, right? But the kids definitely, they pick it up really quickly.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I did.
Did you enjoy watching it? Say yes if you did.
Put your comment in the chat box. Did you enjoy that process? Are you doing the process with your partner? So, ma'am, would you like to comment? What do you think is the advantage of doing it this way, as opposed to, obviously, we could have just done it in writing. So what's the advantage of doing it using these concrete materials?
Okay. It gave me more clarity. The concept, I understood exactly how many tens, 100 I'm taking, how I'm converting it, how I'm borrowing. So that concept was very clear, rather than doing it on the paper, writing or counting on my fingers, and doing with resources, you know, it was more interesting for me.
Okay, it was more interesting and you also understood more deeply.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And also with the pair, you were there assisting me, we working in consultation, you know, and holding each other, it became even more joyful.
Right, lovely, lovely. So I see many of you are responding in the chat. You're saying, yes, 1,787. Yeah, I'm sure you solved it well. Understanding is easier. Yes, yes, you all enjoyed watching it. Great. And I hope you did it yourselves as well. Yeah, many of you posted the answer too. Lovely. It simplifies complex concepts. Absolutely. And we'll see very shortly, we'll be doing not just subtraction, we'll be doing a division problem together. And we'll also be doing another activity which teaches place value and permutation. So this is not just for the simple concepts, right? It's also for more complex or higher order concepts can also be taught and learned using these sorts of activities.
How many children are scared of division sums?
How many adults are scared of division sums? So let's move forward, and I want to show you, as many of you are expressing interest in the books. In the next video, we're flicking through the pages of the book to give you a brief overview of the structure. You know, how it flows all the way from counting at the start, all the way addition, subtraction, way up to division, and then fractions, measurement, how it packs it all into this 32-page booklet, right? I can understand you might be thinking, wow, 32-page booklet, it must be very dense, but actually it's a lot of pictures there, it's a lot of prompts. The key thing is we are not providing a lot of questions for the kids to solve because the kids are making more questions for each other. So it's not like a traditional workbook where there's like 50 questions on a page, really boring and dense. It's not like that at all, as you're about to see in the next video. The ALfA program teaches numeracy swiftly and easily. Let's take a look inside the structure and flow of the numeracy book. The inside front cover shows a reminder of the key principles of the ALfA approach to numeracy, children working in pairs, using physical objects, and making connections with their everyday life. It also reminds that ALfA numeracy teaches skills that are important for children in any grade of primary school. Each module's name is an I can statement. For instance, I can write numbers 1 to 10. Each module has a pictorial representation of whatever activity the students will do and prompts below explaining it. The teacher can help the children form pairs and read the prompts. Module 3 encourages children to learn and write a family member's mobile number. Module 4 introduces the concept of matchsticks as ones and ice cream sticks as tens, extending counting and writing numbers up to 20. Maths is about more than just numbers and operations. The ALfA numeracy books interweave many different concepts throughout, making strong connections with daily life. We then extend counting up to 100, including showing a number board. The idea of a clap as 10 and a snap as 1 is also introduced. Children become increasingly confident with recognizing and writing two-digit numbers, as well as representing them using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. The next modules teach single-digit addition and subtraction. Children solve the given problems using matchsticks and also in writing. They then make more questions for each other. We go on to addition and subtraction with two-digit numbers, again using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. The pictorial representation shows the concept of carrying in addition, that is, exchanging 10 matchsticks for 1 ice cream stick, and also borrowing in subtraction, that is, exchanging 1 ice cream stick for 10 matchsticks. The next page takes it all a step further, introducing hundreds and thousands. We then extend addition and subtraction to 4-digit numbers. The same concepts of carrying and borrowing are used. Children solve the given problems and then make more questions for each other. The next modules teach multiplication as repeated addition. That is, 5 times 4 means adding 5 together 4 times. Children construct the times table themselves and start to remember them. The same concept of repeated addition also works for multiplying 2 by 1-digit numbers, again using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. We teach division by grouping objects. Children represent a number, for instance 48, using ice cream sticks and matchsticks. They then divide it into equal piles, in this case 4 piles. Again, children make more questions for each other. ALfA also explains long division for large numbers. Children represent the problem using chits of paper, distribute the number into equal piles, and then take change, for example, exchanging 100 chit for 10 tens chits when needed. We then introduce the calendar. Children ask each other questions about their birthdays and various festivals and holidays. They compare which months have how many days. Children also learn how to tell the time. They can spin the hand of a toy clock and ask each other what time it is. Further modules introduce money. Toy money is provided for children to play games, which further builds confidence with number operations. The next modules focus on measurement. Children have fun using irregular measures like paces and handspan to measure the classroom and objects in it. One page focuses on length. First, centimeters and meters, with children measuring each other as if at a tailor's shop. Then kilometers with a fun geography activity. The next modules introduce volume in liters and milliliters. Children bring bottles, glasses, and containers to do fun activities measuring water. Children also ask each other questions comparing the weights of different items and can even make their own weighing balance. ALfA also introduces fractions using pictorial representations and cutting or coloring pieces of paper. The next page has a number story. More than separate word problems, a number story involves children with multiple questions that build on each other. This story spans the different operations as well as concepts of weight, volume, and time. So you can see that with this simple book and a technique of hands-on paired learning, children can learn numeracy swiftly and easily thanks to ALfA. Well, that was a bit of a whirlwind tour of the book. I'm sure you weren't able to read the prompts because it flicked through pretty quickly, but I hope you got the key point that it's a very modular structure, right? So let me ask you first, actually, what are the things that you noticed about the structure of the ALfA numeracy book? right? Anything interesting, anything that stood out to you about how the book is structured, how it flows, anything that surprised you about the order of why we did something first and not something else? And let me turn to you then, Sunita, while we're waiting for the comments to come in. We want to hear your thoughts. Why did you design the book that way? I remember we were discussing it, right? We were moving things backwards and forwards a lot. For instance, here there's stuff about shapes, the stuff about patterns, which comes even before addition and subtraction. So that's quite different from a traditional approach, right? What's your thinking behind it?
Okay, so you can say that I don't like to do things as they are.
So you just want to change it just for the sake of changing
it? For the sake of it. No, but also I'm observing the children. They need psychological break. They need to go into different dimensions. You know, they need to be able to see the spatial relationships. It's not just about a linear way of doing things. It's a yin yang. It's a, you know, it's non-linear. And I think that children enjoy that. You know, one of the activities in the middle of, say, multiplication division might be where they're just doing, you know, turns, and they're showing, you know, I turned 360 degrees, I've turned 180 degrees. You know, I'm, you know, this is my back, this is my front, I'm with front. So those little concepts, itsy bitsy concepts, are very quick to understand. Heavier, lighter. You know, why we keep them in such, you know, far away places? Even patterns, you know, patterns are something they can do. It's logical mind of the child. You don't need to wait for patterns till the end of a book, and they're fun. And once they've got those patterns in mind, it kicks in that thinking in patterns for the rest of learning.
Right, right.
So there are advantages to doing it earlier. So of course there is a complete topsy-turvy in terms of order, but you can also see that the modules are very short. This is not how the textbooks are laid out. In textbook, you'll have maybe 3 pages, 4 pages of explanations, verbal explanations. Now, these are not possible for children to read on their own. They find it very boring. Certainly, children don't want to go home and open up their textbooks.
Yeah.
Please let me know if you have children who love to open their textbooks when they get home. Right?
That was me. That was me.
Only geniuses like Tom. By the way, Tom is our Tom is a youth volunteer from Australia. And he is our master trainer for Devi Sansthan, has been with us for about almost 5 years. And it's a wonderful thing to have young people embrace this, because they are fresh. They allow themselves to think that anything is possible. While we teachers think, oh, no, that's not possible. Even the policymakers, you know, like, how can that be? And most of them will probably say, impossible. This can't be done. This is not the way how you do things, you know. So we challenge things at many levels, and so, Tom is helping us do that.
So just on that note, we also want your help for this project, right? There's only so much we can do. We can obviously run online trainings like this, and we hope that this is effective and enjoyable, but also sometimes physical training is very helpful. So we cannot go to every corner of the country. We cannot go to every corner of the world. So we want you, whoever you are watching us today, we want you to join us as an ALfA trainer to spread this message. Try it out first in your classroom, get familiar with it, but then after that, we want you to spread the word far and wide and join us as an ALfA trainer. So I am looking in the comments to see your thoughts on the numeracy book. You're saying it's very helpful in clearing the concept. Thin books with lots of learning and hands-on activities. Great. Yeah. If we apply the ALfA process, then we should reduce the syllabus. Yes, I agree. The syllabus is probably too heavy.
No, but I want to say that, no, you can increase the syllabus.
Okay.
In fact, you can raise the bar. You can ask children to do much more. You don't have to ask them. They will do it. Just don't stop them. And you will see they're not just covering the syllabus, they're going well beyond. Imagine if you finished your ALfA books, learning materials, we prefer to call it, in, let's say, 45 days. In another 45 days, you finish the entire year's coursework in every subject. What are you going to do the rest of the year? Yeah. So there is a lot of empty spaces in education at the moment. And when we take those out, when we build efficiencies in learning, we find we create a lot more space, rather than saying, oh my God, there's so much syllabus. The teachers are going crazy, you know, and then the syllabus is planned. Okay, this week you will do this, or this month you will do this. Children know it, but you're saying, no, we have to drag it a month because it says in our syllabus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think all these archaic ways have to give way. They just are not working. Kids can do a lot more. So you can increase the syllabus. Please go ahead.
I mean,
and you don't even have to increase the syllabus; they'll increase it for you.
Exactly. I think the syllabus should be the starting point. It shouldn't be the finishing point. Nah? It's not like a burden. Okay, we need to get through and tick off these 20 things and follow this detailed prescriptive timetable. The syllabus, and that's how the ALfA books are designed, right? They're a starting point. So there's a pictorial representation, as you saw in the module. Pictorial representation. There's some prompts for the teacher to read out or for the kids to read themselves. But then most of it is the kids are making more questions for themselves, and they're going well above and beyond what's actually shown in the books. So that's the beauty of it. It's a starting point. It's not the finishing point. So as I'm looking in the comments, many of you are also appreciating the structure of the book. Somebody, Renu Agarwal, said the book is very precise with just hands-on activities which interest the learner. That's right. So we don't have these long, lengthy explanations, right? It's straight to the activity. And it's very beneficial. The numeracy book has different types of activities to resolve the confusion of a child. Yes, absolutely. So as we saw with the tens and ones concept, right? If we're doing clapping and snapping sorts of activities, but we're also using concrete objects. So some children may not be able to understand as easily using clapping and snapping. They will understand more easily with the concrete objects, and vice versa. So the same concept can be taught in a variety of ways. It's well designed. Yeah, it takes time at the beginning, but soon we'll catch the momentum. I agree, Rashmi, that at the start, the kids will need to become familiar with the process, right? And that's the role of the teacher, is to normalize them, to demonstrate, right? That's what we're about to do very soon, is the teacher needs to give a demonstration, right? The teacher can also call a pair forwards to do a demonstration, and then the pairs can take it forwards and do it themselves. But the teacher still does have an important role, right? We're not saying that ALfA takes the teacher out of the equation. The teacher has an important role in creating that new normal, in showing the kids, demonstrating the process, not so much in explaining the concept, but in showing the process through which, when kids follow, they will understand the concept themselves. So, yes.
So when you talk about new normalization, it's a lot of different things that the children need to learn, but they can do so slowly and surely. But in the very beginning, they need to learn one very, very key skill in the normalization process, that is to face each other and work with each other rather than raise their hands. And they need to take turns. This is definitely very important. They don't know how to take turns. How one asks, the other answers, and the other asks, and the first one answers. They need to learn courtesies and manners around it. As you might have seen, well done, Tom. You know, how many times do children hear well done? Right? The teacher cannot say well done to everyone every single day, every single moment. Here, just at the end of every single activity, we're exchanging notes. We're saying, oh, it's your turn now. It's better to say your turn than my turn. But of course, if you've forgotten me, then I'll say, hey, it's my turn. That's assertiveness. They need to learn both. And they need to learn to give this thought that it has to go, that it's equal amount of time, equal amount of effort. And they need to support each other and help each other and take responsibility for each other's learning. These are all parts of normalization that the teacher needs to now teach them. And this is one of the skills that the teacher has to teach. The other thing the teacher needs to teach is how to make questions. The teacher teaches you the skill to make the question, but not to make those specific questions, or not to put those questions up on the board saying, now this is your task, right? Write the answers to these 5 questions. This is not what we do in ALfA. We say, you know how to make questions, go make them.
Absolutely.
Big difference.
Definitely. So that's what we're about to show in the next video, is looking at slightly higher order concepts. So the concepts coming towards the end of the book. So multiplication, division, fractions as well, right? Fractions and place value, dealing with large numbers. So in the next video, we'll see some of the mechanics of this process. And I know, let's be honest, there's many adults out there watching this who are sometimes a bit shaky with their maths concepts, but I'm sure you'll find these hands-on activities are a real way to actually understand what we're doing and take the fear out of maths and replace it with joy. So let's watch the next video, and then we'll do some more activities together. With multiplication, you might be wondering, suppose we are multiplying 28 times 3. Multiplication means repeated addition. So first we need to make 3 separate piles of 28. Feel free to pause the video to get it out. Have you done that? Great. Now let's add all the matchsticks together and count them. What did we get? 24? Exactly. So what will we do with them? You got it. We'll exchange 20 matchsticks for 2 ice cream sticks. Now we can add the 3 piles of ice cream sticks together. Don't forget the 2 new ice cream sticks we just got too. So what do we have in total? Exactly 8 ice cream sticks. And we had 4 matchsticks left over from earlier. So that's a total of 84. Again, in a classroom, children would be making many more such questions for each other and also checking their partner's work. What about division? Is that also possible to do using hands-on activities? You bet it is. Now we need to divide the ice cream sticks into 3 equal piles. Each pile gets 2 each, but then there's still 1 left over. What will we do? You got it. We'll exchange it for 10 matchsticks, giving us a total of 12 matchsticks now. Then we'll divide them into 3 piles also. So now each pile has 2 ice cream sticks and 4 matchsticks. That is a total of 24. Can hands-on activities be used for larger numbers too? Absolutely. You would just need some other counter to represent hundreds and something else for thousands. Alternatively, students can just use chits of paper with 100 or 1000 written on them. What about other maths concepts? Let's do an activity together, which is one of our favorites. First, make 3 chits of paper and write 1, 2, and 3 on one each. Now, arrange the chits to form a 3-digit number. For instance, 123. Note this down. Then, try rearranging the chits to form another number. For instance, 321. Note this down too. Now keep going, rearranging the chits to form 3-digit numbers. How many could you make? If you got 6, well done. Now, can you rewrite your list in descending order? Great job. We can see that in this simple activity, children are learning about place value, as they see that the same digit in a different position has a different value. They are also learning how to arrange in descending order. For higher grades, this can also be used as an activity to teach about permutations. Let's conclude with an activity on fraction addition. How can we add 1/2 and 1/8? We'll start by taking a paper, folding it in half, and coloring half of it. Now let's keep folding the paper to get it into eighths. Do you notice that what was earlier 1/2 has now become 4/8? Now we can color in 1/8 more. So what is the total fraction? You got it, 5/8. You can see how the concept of equalizing the denominators before adding fractions becomes easy and intuitive with paper folding. We hope that you enjoyed the experience of using ALfA hands-on activities. We can't wait to see how they work for you in your classroom. Wow. Well, that was good to see, although it's a bit strange hearing my voice like that. But yeah, I hope that showed some of the ways that even things like division and fraction addition, which some may also be a little bit confused by, this can also be done in a very clear and concrete way using these activities which are suggested in the ALfA books. So I've got my 2 students here, right? And I want to do a division problem with them, and I'll also be posting this division problem in the chat. So maybe you can also do if you've got your concrete objects with you. Now, supposing I'm the teacher, I'm going to give a demonstration to my students, right? Showing them the process, and then they're going to do it themselves, right? They're going to ask questions of each other. So that's the key step in ALfA, is the teacher is there not so much to explain the concept, but to explain the process. And then the children follow the process and they understand the concept themselves. So I'm going to demonstrate for them. So our division problem, if I have this camera in here, please. Our division problem, which I'll also put in the chat, please, is 445 divided by 3. 445 divided by 3. So first of all, I'm going to demonstrate to my class, and I'm going to take out 445. And even in the demonstration process, we can keep involving the class by asking them questions. So children, how can I take out 445, this number? How many hundreds are there in this number? Can anybody tell me?
You
sir,
first.
Sir doesn't
You
know.
first.
Okay. 445. So I'll
Yes.
start taking my
Yes. Can you tell me how many hundreds? are there?
400s.
400s. Great. Okay. So I'll take out 400s. Excellent. Now, can anybody else tell me how many tens there are in this number?
5.
Good try, but just check once again.
4.
Okay, 4 tens. Great. And can you please post this question in the chat box as well? The question is 445 divided by 3. Okay, you can see it on screen there. So I've got my 400s out here. Okay, and Sunita, how many tens was that?
4.
4 tens. Okay, so I'm getting out 4 tens as well. 1, 2, 3, 4 is my 400s, 4 tens. And can anybody tell me how many ones there are?
You first.
45.
Okay, good try. But let's look just at the ones, not at the tens.
Okay.
How many ones are there?
5.
5. Okay, great. So 5 ones. Lovely. I'm getting out my 5 ones. Now, I hope if you're watching this, if you've got your objects, you can also represent this yourself. Please represent this yourself and solve, or if you're with a partner, solve with them. You can also make a fresh problem to ask them. So here I've got my 400, 4 tens, and 5, 445. Now, can anybody tell me, we're dividing this, how many different piles do we need to divide this into?
3.
You got it, 3 piles. We're going to divide this into 3 equal piles. Okay, so I'm going to start with the biggest ones. Okay, so I'm going to start with these. I'm dividing this 3 ways. Supposing it's the 3 of us. Okay, I'm dividing it. So you get 1. Okay, I get 1, and you get 1. Okay, now how many of these 100 piles do we have left?
1.
Okay, how many of these 100 piles do we have left?
1.
1. Okay, so how are we going to divide this?
You'll have to open this up.
I'll have to open it up. You got it. Okay, so I'm just going to write this as well. So we all got, how many did we get each?
1.
We all got 1 each. So I'll write that there. Now I've used up 3 piles and I've got 1 pile left. Okay, I've got 1 pile left. Now, as you said, I'm going to have to divide this. So I'm going to unpin it, and now I've got these are 10. $14 tens. So I'm going to distribute these. Okay, let's distribute them. 1 for you, one for me, 1 for you. Okay, 1 for you. Now, if you're doing this in the class, you could actually call 3 children forwards, right? And you could distribute to them physically, right? That'll be a really concrete, easy way for the whole class to understand. So I'm distributing 1 each. There we go. Now we've all got 3. Now we've all got 4. Can you just swivel the camera a little so that all 3 piles come in? Yep. Okay. Great.
Also, to teach children to put things in the right way. That's very important. Sometimes we've seen the teachers not really worrying about where the bigger numbers go. The bigger numbers go always on the left of the smaller numbers, and they need to know that.
So I've distributed my 14. I had 14 tens. Can anybody tell me how many tens we each got? Somebody can count and see. How many tens did we each get?
14.
14. Okay, not quite. Good try, but leaving aside this one, right? This is the 100. So how many tens did we each get?
Each.
We each got 4. Great. Okay, we can see that we each got 4 tens. That's great. So now, and can anybody tell me how many tens we have left over?
2.
2. You got it. Okay, so we've used up 12 tens. Okay, we've used up 12, and we have now just 2 left over. So can I distribute these 2 tens among the 3 of us, just like this?
No.
So what am I going to have to do?
We'll have to convert it into ones.
I'm going to have to convert into ones. Okay, now this is a bit of a hassle. I've chosen a bad problem for myself, because now I'm going to have to count out 20 matchsticks. Okay, maybe can you help me? Can you count out 10? Can you help me as well?
Sure.
So as many steps of the way, even in the demonstration, right, we can ask for the help of our students. We can ask them to do parts of the process. It's fine to go very slow, right? We want the whole class to understand the process. So now here we've got 2 10s. We've beautiful. These are
go back.
These are
these go back.
These go back. Okay, sure.
Go back.
So now I have 20 ones from this plus 5 ones from the start.
Oh, yeah.
5 ones
sorry.
from the start. Yeah. Okay. So can anybody tell me in total how many ones I've got? I've got 20 and 5 in it. So how many do I have total?
25.
25. Okay, beautiful. There are 25 ones. So now I'm going to distribute these among the 3 of us. So I hope if you're watching, I hope you've got your own counters out and you're doing this problem with us, right? Doing this problem or doing a separate problem yourself. So we're distributing here, right? This is the process in which the teacher at the start, the children will not be familiar with the process. So the teacher needs to give a demonstration of how the process works. Once they've done the demonstration, then the kids can take it forwards and make more problems themselves.
Yes, when they get the hang of 1 1 1 1, they can do 3 3 3 or 5 5 5. They can do it faster.
Sure. I'm just doing the process very gradually so you can all see.
Yes.
So I'm distributing 1 matchstick at a time to each of the piles. And can any of you precocious kids tell me before I finish how many? We had 25 matchsticks. How many are we each ending up with? How many do we have each?
7.
Oh, good try, but just check once again.
8.
You got it, 8. So we've ended up with 8 matchsticks each. So that's a total of how many matchsticks have we distributed?
24.
24 matchsticks we have distributed, and we got 8 matchsticks each. Now, how many matchsticks do I have left?
1.
Yeah, okay. So this is what we call the remainder, right? Because it's remaining at the end. Of course, if we wanted to, we could take change for this. We could break it up and get to the decimal places, but we won't do that today.
but the thing is that, this is like very, very cognitive. It draws on the cognitive mind of the child. It draws on the analytical mind of the child. And once they have understood the connection between what's hands-on and what is the written form, it becomes a basis for their sense of numbers. Normally, we do hands-on, like we used to do also in the past, in one of the versions of our evolving journey towards ALfA. We would have the hands-on activity, but we hardly ever connected the hands-on activity to the written expression. This is going side by side. They can see how the written expression comes out from a hands-on activity. And we do it vice versa also. Like we'll now pose the questions for each other, let's say. So I'll be just posing the question. And my pair, that will be Samvida, will be figuring out how to do it. And she'll be making mistakes along the way. Like, of course, here she deliberately made some mistakes. I deliberately made some mistakes. But children will make deliberately some mistakes. And then they'll sort it out. That process of struggle is part of the learning. We shouldn't say, oh, correct it. Immediately we tend to get them, oh, you went wrong in this step or that step. Let the kids do it with each other. Let them remind each other, and learning is a lot faster. The other thing that you may have noticed that Tom's question had a remainder. And why are we teaching remainders first, right? It doesn't really matter. It's better to teach remainder first rather than the other way around, where you teach with a 0 remainder, you kind of fix the problem. Because when the kids are, later on we're saying, just pick up any number of sticks. Make your questions with the sticks rather than with a handwritten note. Just pick up any number of sticks. Divide by any number, right? Of course, we'll say divide by a small number right now. We're not saying divide by 455, but divide by, say, 3, 4, and all that. So the children can make up their own questions. They'll end up with a random number. They don't know if there'll be a remainder or not. So better to teach them together. So you'll see all the ALfA modules are designed with 2 half modules on a half page. So if you can think of all of the addition with carryover and without carryover are both on the same page. Similarly with division, is on the same page, same half page, in fact. So kids learn in that way a lot better. Their analytical mind is kicking in a lot more. And just half pages to learn division. How many have you seen a half page booklet for division? Please say yes if you have.
So the key part, of course, here is the process, right? And the key part is not the answer that we got, but the key part is the process That's the teacher's role. It's to demonstrate the process. Then the children, but through doing the process, they will understand the concept themselves. So I think we've got time to do one more fun activity, right? So as we saw in the video, there was that 1, 2, 3 paper chits activity. So let's do that one together. This one definitely you can all do, right? So if you have your notebook with you, please rip out a sheet of paper, right? And form 3 chits from it. So we'll be doing it here as well. Please, you guys also do, wherever you are, take a paper, make 3 chits and write 1 on one chit, 2 on one, and 3 on the third. So just three chits of paper, and we can write 1, 2, and 3. So you can post in the chat if you've done 1, 2, and 3. We're going to write it nice and big here. Now this, of course, is just the starting point, right? This is the question that's given in the ALfA books. But then after that, kids can use any number. They don't need to stick with 1, 2, and 3 digits. They can do even 4 chits of paper instead, right? They can write different numbers on this. So here I've got my chits 1, 2, and 3. I hope you've got it in your wherever you are. I hope you've written your chits as well. Now the question is, going to arrange and rearrange these chits to form 3-digit numbers. So for example, if I've just got my digits like this, 1, 2, 3, that makes 123. So I'm going to note this down on my paper, 123. Now I can rearrange my chits to form new 3-digit numbers. So for example, if I swap the 3 and the 1, now this makes 321. So I hope you are all doing this. Get out your chits. I hope you've written your numbers. Now arrange and rearrange, and let's see how many different 3-digit numbers we can form. My class is here with me. They're also doing it. That's great. I hope all of you who are watching are doing it. And don't cheat from what we're doing, right? Do it yourself. And then we want to hear in the chat the list of numbers that you made. Okay. So come on, everybody, arrange and rearrange those chits. And once you've got your list of numbers, please post them in the chat box. Okay, so I'm just having a look in the chat box. It looks like most of you were able to make 6 numbers. That's good. Fantastic. And you're also posting the list. That's great. Lovely. Let me then, a further question. What sort of concepts are we learning through this activity? What type of concepts does this activity teach? Right, it's a fun activity, definitely. I hope you enjoy it as well. But what's the point of this activity? What concepts are we learning through this? Looks like my students have also got 6 numbers. Excellent. So let me turn to you guys while we're waiting for the responses to come in the chat. Question which I'd like your thoughts on is, what concepts is this activity teaching? So Sunita, what's your feeling? As you did this activity, what concepts are you learning through this?
So this activity comes pretty much later in the ALfA process. So you'll be doing this as part of last couple of activities before we do a word story problem in which you cover a lot of concepts together. And children make those stories also. So it's actually teaching them a lot of thought. I mean, they have to think about numbers in many different ways. You know, what are the permutations that you can make? And you can see that, okay, 2 has come twice, 1 has come twice, and 3 has come twice in the beginning, the very first number, right? So you've got 3 numbers, and each one of them has come twice. So obviously that makes it 6. So you're learning a lot of pre-algebra as well. You're learning a lot of further mathematical skills by processing information this particular way. It's kicking in your analytical mind once more. It's a very enriching experience.
Absolutely. So, Vidya ma'am, would you like to add what sort of things are you learning from this process?
I think it's all coming in the chat, what we wanted to say. If you look here, Joanne has put reading numbers out loud. Fir Kabhi has put place values. Hina Khan has written ascending and descending order. Sunil Kumar, lowest and highest number. Namrita, forming different numbers and ordering the numbers in ascending and descending order. Subhi, arranging numbers from big to small. Kumar Saurabh, how many numbers we can make with number 1, 2, 3, 4? That's a question. Here means the children are forming their own questions also. So they're building on the question which was given by Tom. That is also one of the skills that we are trying to inculcate out here. Then place value, Mr. Anwar, Sakshi, and Renu Agarwal, concept of forming, greatest, smallest, place values, creating new numbers. Excellent.
Wow. So you can see that in a pretty simple activity, there's quite a few different maths concepts that are coming through, as you're saying, right? Place value, ascending and descending order, face value. And as Saurabh was saying, this activity can be taken much further, right? Be using 1, 2, and 3. We can ask kids to choose any 3 numbers and then make those arrangements. They can also go on to 4 numbers, right? And with 4 numbers, there will be a lot of different combinations. This is a bonus question for anybody to respond to in the chat. If we have 4 numbers, how many different permutations are there of that? How many different numbers can be made if there are 4 digits? Interested to hear your thoughts in the chat. And yeah, I think this is a really good time for us to pause also, because it's been a really power-packed morning session, right? There's been a lot of activities, a lot of fascinating classroom content, and we've been super active in our minds. We've been thinking a lot. Now it's time to get up and stretch a little, do a bit of exercise. We'll do some exercise together, and then we've got a lot more interesting classroom footage to see after the break. So let's all stand up together and let's do some exercises, because active learning means not just physically and not just mentally active, but also physically active. So let's switch over to this dance video.
Joanne, why don't you come?
Don't think about it, just move your body. Listen to the music, sing oh, eh, oh. Just move those left feet, go ahead, get crazy. Anyone can do it, sing oh, eh, oh. Show the world you got that fire. Feel the rhythm getting louder. Show the world what you can do, prove to them you got the moves. I don't know about you, but I feel better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. Better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. And we can do this together. I feel better. Finally let go. You say that's solo, cause you listen to the music. Sing oh, hey, oh, cause you're confident, babe. You make your hips right. We knew that you could do it. Sing oh, hey, oh. Show the world you got that fire. Fire, baby. Feel the rhythm getting louder. Show the room what you can do. Move to them, you got the moves. I don't know about you, but I feel better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. Better when I'm dancing. Yeah, yeah. And we can do this together. I bet you feel better when you're dancing. Yeah, you better when I'm dancing. I'm better when I'm dancing. Hey, feel better when I'm, yeah, yeah.
Everybody, I hope you all joined us in that dance. It's a lot of fun.
Children popping like popcorn, children doing sweeping the floor like dad.
This is what we want to tell our participants out here. The ALfA modules have music, games, activities, physical objects, and life connects. For every child is fully engrossed, engaged, thinking, solving, innovating, and waiting for their turn to have that fun, that joy, which is there in ALfA learning.
Wonderful. So yeah, I hope we all enjoyed that. We need to get the blood flowing, and the adrenaline pumping a little bit. And yeah, I think there's been a lot to process from the morning session. As we've done some fun activities together, we've seen some impressive footage from the classroom. So I hope we're all feeling inspired. We're feeling excited to try this out in our own classrooms. However, there may obviously still be some questions, some doubts, some queries that we have. And that's quite okay. That's legitimate, right? In Hindi, we have a saying, "Pehle istemal kare, fir vishwas kare," right? First try it and then believe in it. So I think that's totally legitimate. The next video we're about to show you gives voice to some of those questions, right? It shows, it raises some of those doubts. So that's what we want to ask you in the chat box as well after the next video. Any questions or doubts you have so far about the ALfA process? Before that, Sunita, you'd like to add something?
Yes, I'd like to say that, you wonder how these 28, 32 pages booklets have also music and activities built into it, and where are they, right? It's not taking up more pages. Every activity is written in the prompts. So every half-page module has a bottom part which says prompts. These are the instructions that the teacher uses to prompt the class as to what they have to do. So the teacher prompts them, but when they get this, they become proficient in reading on their own, the teacher does not need to read them out or demonstrate also, because we allow children to do even that much. Their own teacher part they can do just by understanding what they're supposed to do. So for example, one of the activities is popping like popcorn. So the whole class is popping, 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 popping. Another activity is sweeping the floor. Now dads don't normally sweep floors. It's mothers who do, some maid in country like India. But here the dad is mopping the floor, and the whole class is mopping the floor, mopping, mopping, mopping. There are a lot of kinesthetic activities, tactile activities. For example, there's making a badge for each other. So we say, terrific Tom. My partner is Tom, and he's terrific.
Superb Sunita.
And he'll say, superb Sunita. So I'll make a badge for him saying terrific Tom. Now he'll wear that badge for a month. Now he'll feel really terrific, wouldn't he? And it's also a quality that we are endorsing in him. He will say, what did you say for
Superb
me?
Sunita.
Superb Sunita. So I will wear a badge called Superb Sunita, made by Tom for me. How well do I feel about that? How good do I feel? They make for their teachers umpteen badges for the teacher. So there's arts and craft activity. There's meaningful activity that links to character and values, to endorsing each other. And endorsement is built everywhere. Like, well done, Tom. Oh, that was really nice. So Tom is getting super endorsed, and I'm getting also super endorsed.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think we're all feeling pretty excited about this, but obviously there may still be some questions and doubts, which is totally legitimate. So let's have a look at the next video, which shows a bit of a compare and contrast between the traditional approach and the ALfA approach, and gives voice to some of those concerns that we may still have. So let's watch the video, and then we're looking forward to hearing your questions and thoughts in the chat.
Hello, Miss ALfA. Hello, Miss Sharma. How are you? I'm good. I heard you teach the ALfA way. I have some doubts. Can I ask you? Sure, Miss Sharma. Isn't it vital to memorize times table, alphabet? Let me show you a video of my class. Today we will learn even and odd numbers. What we will learn? Even and odd numbers. So repeat with me. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. These are even numbers.
Rote memorization doesn't actually lead to long-term memory. Hands-on activities does. Let me show you a video of my class.
Which is the biggest number? 10 is the biggest number. Good. Can you pick any even number? 8 is an even number. Good.
Shouldn't the teacher do whole class activity? Let me show you a video of my class.
So 2 plus 7 is 9 and 5 plus 2 is 7. Copy it in your notebook. Five plus 4 is 9 and B plus 2 is 5.
In whole class, some kids are left out. Let me show you a video of my class. Every child is engaged in the process of pair learning. So come on, try it with your partners.
If 2 weak students are sitting in a pair, how can they help each other?
We don't categorize or label students. Even so-called weak students can recognize pictures and first sound.
But if both children are stuck, then surely they should approach the teacher for help. Let me show you a video of my class.
Mom, I will answer this question.
Come, I will.
Okay.
Okay?
We can let them struggle a bit. That's how they learn. Encourage them to approach another pair. Let me show you a video of my class.
Exercise again. Can you tell me how to make 73? Yes. One ice cream stick means 10 and one math stick means 1. You have to take 7 ice cream sticks and 3 math sticks. Now I have understood.
Your classroom seems so noisy though.
They may be noisy, but it's productive noise. Let me show you a video of my class.
Wow, well, that was a great set of classroom footage, and it really encapsulated the difference between ALfA and traditional approach in many ways. So we want to hear your thoughts in the chat. Are there any questions or doubts at this stage for you in the ALfA process? We've seen some classroom footage, we've done some activities ourselves, but there may well still be questions, and that's always good. We always invite questions, we invite clarifications, doubts. So let me put on my devil's advocate hat, a hat I really enjoy wearing, and ask you first, Sunita, while we're waiting for questions to come in the chat. So one question I had, especially at the start, is how does this work if there are 2 children who are both at ground zero, who both don't understand the concept, then how can they help each other to learn? Supposing there's 2 kids who both don't even know how to count in maths, then how can they teach each other?
Firstly, no 2 children are exactly zero or ground zero. They may not know that concept because you've not taught them the earlier concept. When you begin from the beginning, there's no reason why they'll get stuck later on, because they'll go back and reconstruct previous learning. How they'll reconstruct previous learning? Because the modules are from known to unknown. They scaffold in a different way. They scaffold from a previous known to the next unknown, but they link together. The previous unknown is linked to the new unknown. And so they're able to, for example, when you're saying that they don't know how to do division, they'll have done multiplication before, they'll have done addition before, they'll have done subtraction before, and they'll have done steps towards division. For example, division is repeated subtraction. They'll have done a lot of repeated subtraction. So if they don't do a particular thing, they go back earlier. They help each other. So both of us are struggling, let's call it that, rather than at ground zero. Both of us are struggling for a concept, don't know. We go to other pairs and say, can you show us how? You just saw in that video.
Right.
These 2 kids just turned back and said, can you help me? you know, and the other child was gladly happy to show, you know, this is how you do it. So seek help. This is a skill we need to teach our children. They need to seek help when they can't do something in life also.
It's a really good point, and I think it's a point that needs to be made, that sometimes as teachers we feel that there's a diversity of learning levels in the classroom, right? It's obvious that no two children are the same, and obviously in a class of 30, 40 kids, there's going to be a wide variety of learning levels, right? Some kids are going to be well ahead of the curriculum, some kids are going to be well behind. So if you're stuck with this rigid curriculum and this one-size-fits-all approach of I'm just going to lecture from the front, then obviously more than half of the class is going to be bored, right? And half the class is going to be not understanding what you're saying. There's only going to be a couple of kids who are actually understanding and following you. That's the beauty of the ALfA approach, is the diversity of the classroom learning levels is actually a strength. As you saw in that video, one child is asking a different pair for help. So that diversity, that sense of some kids may know this concept, other kids may not know, that's actually a plus point for this approach.
It's a plus point because I get the opportunity to teach you, Tom, a genius.
Exactly.
And this is another thing that happens in a classroom. Often we think, oh, so-and-so is really good. Firstly, we should not make children aware who's so good, who's not so good. You're all good. This is something that children need to know, that I'm good, I can do it. If I don't know today, I'll know it tomorrow. Give them that break. Say, okay, today you cannot figure it out. How about we look at it again tomorrow? And something magical happens. Next day they come back, they already know it because they've been thinking about it a whole night.
Definitely. So that thinking time is really important.
Very important. It's called diffuse learning time of learning. When you give children the time to think, which we don't give. We are too rushed.
And I'm seeing, so some good points are coming into the comments. So Joanne has asked, have you ever had a student who just cannot grasp these ideas? Yeah, maybe we'll come to that very soon. Ankita, in fact, has already answered, said, my strategy was to pair the child with another child. So that's a really good point, which if, as we've seen, pairs are made very frequently, right? We make fresh pairs every day, if possible. And that means if for example, Samvida ma'am and I, if I'm not able to understand, right, but then I go with another pair, maybe I will be able to understand. So it's not as static that, okay, the same child, two children are stuck together and it's not working. The pairs keep being reshuffled.
And they can reshuffle themselves. We don't need to be the one saying, okay, everybody now reshuffle. So, okay, this side of the class reshuffle, because you see that there's a problem here. Okay, so let them all reshuffle. That's the role of a teacher.
So I think okay, please do keep posting your questions and doubts. It looks like there's not too many doubts at this stage, which is nice. But yeah, keep posting your questions. I think the proof is really in the pudding, right? We've seen some great qualitative results. We've seen the footage from the classroom. But now let's have a little look at the numbers. What are the numbers saying, right? Because the quantitative data is obviously really important too. So, Samvida ma'am, these are the results from your campus. Would you like to speak to this, please?
Yes, if you can see, we have the pre-test and the post-test data available, which is based on average. And here there were two tests, one post-test, which we call the baseline test, and after the process, there was a pre-test, which we call the baseline, and after the process, the post-test, which we call the end-line test. And here the treatment group is the ALfA class and the control group is the non-ALfA class. So if we look at the data, the grade 1 English, if I will come to post-test first, the grade 1 English, the ALfA class has got 65.39, whereas non-ALfA class has got 45.28. And the difference you see here of the non-ALfA and ALfA classes, 20.11. Now the pre-test which took place, the ALfA class has got 50.77 there. Non-ALfA, which is the control group, has got 48.24. And the difference amongst the both ALfA and non-ALfA in the pre-test is 2.53. And if we take the difference, which is the post-test and the ALfA and the non-ALfA is 2.53. So look at the difference of both post and pre. In the post, it is 20.11. In the pre, it is 2.53. And if we look at the difference, which is the difference of post and pre, that is 0.87 in English grade 1s.
Wow.
So here,
So with let me just interrupt you briefly because these numbers they're a little bit overwhelming even for the mathematically inclined. So Sunita, you've got a PhD in physics. Can you explain to us what does this effect size really mean? And is 0.87? It doesn't sound like very much, but what does it actually mean?
Okay, firstly, let's go to what Samvidaji was saying, that you've got a pre-test that is before the alpha process began. So in her campus, one section of grade 1, that is section A, took the alpha program. Sections B and C did not take the alpha program. They were the non-alpha group. Now, before they began, all the 3 sections, let's look at only grade 1, all the 3 sections took the baseline or the pre-test. In the pre-test, the results were slightly better for the alpha group. They were already slightly better, let's say, right? So it was minor, like 2.53% was the difference. Treatment group was already better than the control group by 2.53 at the beginning. At the end, after the 39 days of implementation, there was a post-test. These are not 39 days total. These are 39 days of school, when the children actually came to learn. After those 39 days, there was a post-test. In the post-test, the results were, as you can see in the left 2 columns, and the difference of those 2 results was 20.11, meaning the original difference of 2.53 went up to 20.11. Now we want to take the difference at the beginning out because the true difference is not 20.11. They already had an advantage of 2.53. So the real difference is actually only 17.58. It's still a whopping number compared to where they were at the beginning. So you can think of it as 50.77 plus 17.58. That's where the alpha group came out to be. Much, much stronger, far more stronger. Now, what is effect size? Very simply put, and I'll just quote my sister who is an economist, and she does this statistical analysis all the time. I'm a physicist and she's an economist. So we make a good combination. So she says that if the effect size is 0.1 or more, it is worth the money. That means you can put your money on it. You can bet on it. That's a good thing. Now here the effect size is far, far greater for 3 of the 4 data on the right side. So for English grade 1, it is 0.87, which is like, okay, hurry up and put your money on it. Okay. Similarly, for mathematics for grade 1, 0.5 is whopping. It's huge in statistical terms and research terms. This is really huge. And then it is 0.38 for grade 2 mathematics. Now for grade 2 English, curiously, it is a negative 0.24. Now, does it mean you don't do it? Let me tell you one thing more. It is very important when you're doing research that you do it properly. What happened here is, for some practical reasons, the pre-test could not be taken till 3 weeks after they'd begun on alpha. In those 3 weeks, the children were already doing better, much better. So now you have to take that minus out of the difference, so it can also go negative, because they were already three weeks later, alpha class was already a lot more ahead of sections B and C combined. And therefore, we had to minus that number when they actually grew. So how much did they grow by? As you can see, even this class has grown by, it was originally 5.65 difference, and here it is 1.45 difference. So they have grown, but not as dramatic. Now, there are other factors we need to consider. This brings us into, like so many things don't go exactly as you hope or wish. There are factors like, did the teacher not feel confident about English? Did she give less importance to English? Did she mix methodologies for English? What were the reasons why for English the result in grade 2 was not as dramatic? Could it be the children's prior knowledge in English in all 3 sections was quite good, so the additional knowledge was not so much in those 39 days? So we have to then be circumspect about how are we getting this data, and then go and fix that, so that for the next 39 days or 45 days that the children are going to work with their textbooks or go beyond the textbooks, because apparently they've already completed the textbooks in the first 10 days after alpha.
Wow. But it seems like, barring that outlier, the results are really quite very, very impressive from class 1 and 2 in both English and maths. I think the Hindi data for some reason is not showing there, but the Hindi results are also pretty good.
We couldn't take the pre-test for Hindi.
But the results are phenomenal for Hindi.
If you see in Hindi also, you'll see in class 1, the difference is 28.16.
Wow.
71.75 versus, it was what at the baseline? I can't read.
The baseline was not done.
Ma'am,
No,
the
no, no.
baseline,
For Hindi, for just the post test.
ma'am, for alpha, it is
Oh.
71.75 and
Okay.
non-alpha, it is 43.59. So difference of 28.16.
So after the 39 days, the non-alpha group got under 40%, and the alpha group got above 72%, or got 72%.
Yeah.
So difference is almost, well, it's pretty whopping. It's 28
Huge,
points.
huge.
28 points.
Wow.
That is really whopping.
Wow.
We did not do a pre-test for Hindi for some, again, technical reasons. At the beginning, the tests were very cumbersome because they had to go and do online, because we wanted no bias in the tests. We wanted that the children not have the same question as question 1. So it's all mixed up and random. We wanted the teachers who teach be not in the computer room when the children are taking tests.
Sure.
So it is under controlled conditions, and this is the data we got.
Sure. Wow. And as I understand, this is data from the City Montessori School, but we've also got some pretty impressive data coming in from the government school, and that's also been written about recently in a report by the Harvard School of Education. So we'd like to speak to that as well.
Right. So the Harvard Graduate School of Education, 4 students studied the Shamli work that we were doing, ALfA implementation in Shamli district of Uttar Pradesh, which, as you've heard from me, is a low-performing district, or was a low-performing district, and now it's come out of low-performing status. We will see the results. End of March, there's a test that the National Achievement Survey test the children will be taking. But in the meantime, these 4 students studied what was going on in ALfA, because after COVID, there's a lot of concern worldwide that the FLN levels are not moving fast enough. We are still not able to catch up on the decline that took place because of COVID, and we also have to aim towards universal FLN. So a lot of people are studying this. This is a 540-page book that just got published on the 3rd of March. It's available on Amazon, and you can buy on the Kindle as well as order a paperback. And in this book, chapters 8 and 10 both refer to ALfA, one in the context of India and one in the context of Maldives. And so they've studied the Uttar Pradesh case. In Uttar Pradesh, our program in 5 months went from 20 schools to 3,000 schools, government schools. And this kind of access that we have to government schools is phenomenal in just such a short time, and because the results were compelling enough. Now, in terms of RCT data that you see there, RCT results, RCT stands for randomized controlled trial. So in this, there's a certain technique, a pedagogy that you follow. In particular, you don't select schools, you let the computer select the schools. And after that, you do the same thing as we have done in Samvidaji's campus, and in Gomti Nagar 2 also, where the program has taken place from November only. We started that in CMS, but this was going on from something like August in the government schools. And from that, it went within very short time. So we do a pre-test just like you do in the case of Samvida ma'am's classes. A pre-test at the beginning, it was done at 10 schools implementing change, 10 not implementing change. This was at the very beginning, what we call phase 1, because we test the waters. Is it going well? Is it not going well? After 40 days of implementation, we did a post-test. And in the post-test, the results were compelling enough. You can see the effect size of this RCT was 0.23 and 0.89. 0.23 for grade 3 and 0.89 for grade 5. So you can see it's more than 0.1, which means it's highly, it's worth your effort.
Absolutely. Wow. So I'm not sure. I hope the numbers speak to some of us. I know that the numbers, for some people, the numbers are powerful. For others, the videos, the stories are powerful. But I think either way, the evidence is pretty compelling. So yes, it's definitely up to us now to try it out in our own classrooms to see for ourselves. And I think we've dwelt a bit on the role of the students in the ALfA classroom, on how students are sitting in pairs, helping each other, they're asking questions for each other, they're doing a lot of activities. But you may be wondering, and it's quite a good question, is what is the role of the teacher then? You know, is the teacher not needed at all? What role does the teacher play in the ALfA classroom? So we have this term of the teacher as a galvanizer. Now, what exactly does this word galvanizer mean? I've put it together in this slide. So, Sunita, would you like to speak to this since you coined the term galvanizer? What do you mean by it? What is the role of a teacher in an ALfA classroom?
So, Tom, what does a teacher normally do? We don't need to repeat. The level of child centricity depends upon the teacher. Some teachers make their classes totally teacher-led, teacher-centric. Some, and that's pretty old and passé. Many teachers have now moved into the idea of teacher-led but child-centric. For example, let's do groups. So this group is going to do this, or all the groups are going to do this, which is all very good, but it's still teacher-led. Teacher is the master orchestrator, and teachers doing all the planning, and the children are doing the implementation. They're not thinking for themselves as much. Of course, once they're on the table, they've got a particular task, they are thinking. Paired learning is also not new. It's been happening for years and years and years and decades, but it is not mainstreamed. What we've done with ALfA is mainstream pair learning. That means for all the time the children are learning, they're not facing the teacher. Can you imagine this? So what does the teacher do? He's facing her, right? No, sad in a way at times for the teacher, what do I do? But we say to the teacher, look, go take a walk, come back, let your class be engaged, okay? Actually not interfering with the learning process, one of the roles of a galvanizer. Galvanizer is not a facilitator. That's why we do not use the term facilitation, because the moment I facilitate, I'll be helping you. I'm facilitating, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I'm not facilitating. I'm letting them be. I let them be. I give them the process by which they can be on their own and just do things on their own. This is a skill. It's also calling upon patience. It's also calling upon a lot of other qualities, because actually, ultimately, you're the master planner, but you're not doing it yourself. They are doing the work. You are watching. Earlier, they were watching and you were doing all the show. You were the one who was active and they were inactive. You're also not a guide by the side, because you may sit in the corner, but you're expecting the children will come to you when they have a problem. And in fact, we're just waiting because somebody should come to me. I know so much more than them, right? But they don't. That is not what they should do. They should not be guided by the side. So you're neither a guide by the side, you're neither a facilitator. What are you, right?
That's the question. What are you? Because the teacher is still key. So
she's an observer there, taking notes,
right?
Planning for the next class, for the next day, And as ma'am said, absolutely no correction work for the teacher, because the children are doing self-corrections, pair connections, all those are taking place here. And also assessments are not being made by the teachers out here. The children are making the assessments. And initially, it seemed like a very, very tough task, because children were not able to proceed further. Maybe one question or two, it was coming like that. But the gradual process, passing of time, days, we started getting 5 from one child. The number kept on increasing to 10, 20. Now the number is such that we have created our own repository. So both City Montessori School, Gomti Nagar Extension, and Aliganj 2, we are sharing this repository here.
A repository of questions which the kids have made themselves.
Yes, so that the kids might consult them in future when they're making their assessments. It's a kind of a resource which they have.
Wow.
Their own question bank, I'll say, out here.
This is pretty innovative. So the kids are designing their own exam.
Absolutely.
That's incredible. Wow.
And in the beginning, they'll make very easy questions because we've not taught them the skill to make questions. This is one of the skills the teachers will have, which is to teach and empower the child to do things by themselves, right? So a very interfering mother will say, oh, have your milk, where are you? Take your milk. The other will make them responsible, right? So this is the difference. And you're not coaxing, prompting, you're just sharing what it is they're expected to do. And then you are creating the classroom environment in which children know the new normalized rules of the game, taking turns and all these things. So that's your role. A, to understand, B, to relate, and C, to ensure that these are taking place. And again, otherwise say, okay, let's talk for a few minutes. Here's a way you can make questions better. So it's a process. And these are grades 1 and 2 children. They're not even like grade 6, 7, 8 children. They're just 1 and 2. Then they learn, okay, if I made a pile of questions for Tom and Tom made a pile of questions for me on, let's say, fractions, right? They're on chits of paper. I've made, and he's made. He's got all of them there. I've got all of my pile here. Now he's going to take out from my pile a question, answer it. I'll take from his pile and answer it, right? Now the teacher is saying, okay, how about this, that this time you mix your questions up and then sort them together as to what's easy for you and what is really difficult for you, and rest go in the middle, right? So the kids kind of sort out, these are my difficult questions. Difficult questions are the ones you want. Say, okay, bring me all the difficult questions. Now the teacher has all a repository of great questions. And what teachers have told me in debriefing meetings and in training sessions we've had with them, or debriefing sessions, they've said that, ma'am, they're coming up with questions we could never imagine.
Wow.
They're so creative, the kids. They're coming up with fantastic questions. Maybe they're looking up the internet the night before. We don't know, but they're coming up with great questions.
Oh, incredible. So yeah, as you're discussing, it seems that the role of the teacher, like the teacher is still playing a very important role, but it's a totally different role. It's a totally transformed role. So your role in the ALfA classroom is, yes, to pair up the kids randomly, to demonstrate how to work with each other, to demonstrate how to take turns. So that's to set the new norms, the new rules of the classroom, and to construct an environment, to build both a physical environment that's conducive. So you can see in the photo here, it's not rows of desks facing the front. We don't want that classroom. We want chairs that are facing each other, or just a pair of chairs, pairs of chairs with each other. And to also set up the social environment in which kids are cooperating with each other rather than competing against each other. So that's the role of the teacher, is setting up the environment, demonstrating, explaining, showing the process, and then getting out of the way and letting the kids do the learning themselves.
One thing more, that, we do not do groups. Imagine there were 5 of us here in a group. Normally 5 is also not possible because many times they have 8 children in a group, split them into 5 groups, 40 children. But even if you had 5 children in a group, I could do all the writing of the questions. All of you will wait and see. Or one child will not participate enough. But in a 1:1 setting, I'm making briskly some questions. You're also going to start making some briskly some questions. You're going to just wait around, because when my turn comes to pick from your pile, you don't have any. So if you can't make, I'll help you. So you'll have yours. I'll start you off, because we are taking responsibility for each other. So 1:1 for everything.
So the kids are taking responsibility for their own learning because they're in a pair. If you're in a larger group, you can easily sit back and watch what the others are doing. But when you're in a pair, you have to participate. And I think you're finding that even the shy children, even the special needs children,
yes.
they are actually participating really well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. So if we consider further about the role of the teacher, one other important point is that instead of praising the children, right? We sometimes think that the role of the teacher is to praise the kids, but instead of praising the kids, we should actually be encouraging them. Now, what is this distinction between praise and encouragement? Alfie Kohn, the American educationist, draws this distinction in his book, Punished by Rewards. He talks about the way that rewards can actually undermine intrinsic motivation, because the teacher is remaining in control, that there is a judge, right? And supposing I say to Samvida, well done, you get a gold star, right? Now, Samvida in the future, she may be thinking, okay, I just need to please the teacher. I just need to get that more gold star. So she's motivated by the gold star, not by the love of learning itself. So how can we move away from praise and towards encouragement instead? And what's the distinction here? Let me pose this as a question for you in the chat box. Okay, so this is teacher 1. Supposing I say to Sunita, congratulations, you came first in the class, right? This is a form of praise. Okay, it's not very helpful. It's actually, it's not leading to more effort. So what's a different thing I could say instead of congratulations, you came first? What's something else I could say that would be more encouraging? I want to hear your thoughts in the chat box. Why? What else would you say instead of you came first in the class? Because these tendencies, they come very naturally. It's very easy. I, as a teacher, also understand. I want to appreciate my kids, and often I say, oh, good boy, smart girl, etc. But it's not actually so helpful. So let's hear in the chat box. Instead of saying you came first in the class, what else would you say to encourage a child? Sunita, can we hear your thoughts then? Not on the answer to this question, but what is the problem with saying you came first in the class?
Yes, firstly, what is wrong is what happens to that child afterwards. So the child who feels, and you, Tom, were a topper all throughout, when a child is constantly being told you're a topper, there are days you feel you want to hide your hard work. You want to pretend that you are this topper, and you're under a lot of stress to keep that top position. If it falls to number 2, you get depressed, stressed out. This is not a proper sentiment if you're going to build a harmonious, a collaborative world out there, humane world out there. It's not important for you to feel you're a topper. It's better that you feel you're a good human being, right? And you can top. Everyone can top. You can help others top, right? Everyone can top. So there are 2 issues here. as a pedagogue, I'd say that, all children should excel, and all children should see their own path to excellence. For that, we do a number of things as well. All children should be able to congratulate not on the marks, but on the effort. Good job, Tom. Good job, Samvida. Good job, Sunita. That is really, really powerful, because now I want to try harder. Secondly, you do not want praise, because praise is temporary at times, because you bring a card which says A+ to your home, and the father says, oh, I have a genius boy. You're most amazing. Show off everywhere. My child got an A+. Look, he's such a genius. Next time he gets a C-. What do? My child is a Dumbo. You won't say that, right? The child will feel humiliated if you do that. So it's, instead of focusing on that, saying, oh, you must have done some really good things. You must have worked really hard. Tell me, how did you get that mark? I'm not saying I'm not the judge. I want to make that praise internal. I want to focus on effort, an effort which every child can make. So I can say, hey, I noticed your handwriting has gone better. What did you do?
So focusing much more on the effort rather than the mark.
Yes,
absolutely.
Effort is more important. And a smart aleck kid, I know in England, his mother was just tearing her hair because next day was some Olympiad he had to go to, and he was always acing and topping, and he hadn't even prepared. So then I was there by chance. I said, hey, let's bring some books out from your shelf and let's study. So we sat through, and did some preparation. And he kind of boringly sat down like, I'm already a genius. I don't need to do this. So this kind of attitude is really wrong, because you're not putting in extra effort. You don't have to just go beyond others. Why not go 10 times beyond others if you have to compare with others? But don't compare. Have you got the potential to do a lot more? Then don't waste your time.
Sure. So for some people, just coming the top of the class is actually boring. It's easy. So you should be competing with yourself. You should be trying to improve yourself further. If you just being smart is not enough, you should be hardworking as well. So I see lots of good responses coming in the chat. Usha gave this message. Hey, Sunita, it's great to see you taking ownership of your learning and raising the bar for yourself. What do you want to achieve next?
Fantastic. I would say brilliant response.
Great encouragement. What do you want to achieve next? It's making the child the locus of control. It's putting the focus back on them, not on the teacher. Your progress is wonderful. Keep encouraging and help others around you. Great. It seems you're working really hard. I appreciate your efforts. Great. So that's right. Exactly. Focusing more on efforts and certainly not comparing kids and having kids compete against each other.
Look, he did 10 pages. You only did 3. Come on. Keep going. That's really a put down.
So let's not compare kids against each other. Let's measure each child against themselves, looking at their progress over time. And I think that's the response. Yeah, lots of people are posting good ideas. Yeah, I love how much effort you're putting into your maths. So if we consider Sunita's response to what the problem was with that phrase, or if you come first in the class, I think it comes down to three, I guess, subcategories, you would say. So one is, does the statement encourage all children, not just some? So this is what we need to consider when we are wanting to encourage our kids. We want to say something that is not just encouraging to one child, but encouraging to the whole class. So instead of saying you're the best in the class, we can say something like, oh, it's good to see how well you're working together, or something that is encouraging to multiple kids, to the whole class. Another question is, does it actually lead to more effort? So if I just say you're smart, that can lead to laziness, as Sunita was sharing in that the story of that unnamed boy in England. But instead, if you're asking, what can you do next? That's, as I think Usha was saying in her comment, what can you do next is something that invites more effort and invites more hard work, not less. And finally, a really important point, is it specific enough to be useful, right? If you just get an A+ on your test, but you don't know what it was that you did well, you don't know what it was that you excelled in, it's not actually that helpful. Similarly, if you get a C-, but you don't know where you went wrong, it's not very helpful. So instead, whenever we're giving feedback to children, we need to be very specific so they know exactly what it was that they did well or not so well. So the way you used rhyme and rhythm in your poem was fantastic. Or I really liked the way you neatly arranged your ice cream sticks and matchsticks. We need to give specific feedback so that the kids can build on that.
And ask questions. Ask questions. Don't judge. Don't pronounce very good, well done. Oh, that is really nice. Why? You know,
So
do you like what you just did? You know, could you try another way? Which work of yours was better? This one or this one? Is it, ma'am, this one? Okay, so do you think you can do this one better? Of course, ma'am, I can do this better, right?
We can turn it back on the kids, right? We can ask them, yeah, what do you like about your work? And what was the favorite part of that exercise for you? We can ask them the question. So I think this is a good moment now to tie it all together, to consider the steps of an ALfA classroom. We've been talking about the role of the teacher. We've been talking about the role of the student, the way the teacher gives a demo, the kids make questions for each other. So let's watch this next and final video to see how this all fits together.
As we start our journey to ALfA Classroom, children will learn by discovering facts which will empower them and boost their self-confidence. Okay, so let's have an energizer. Right. Right hand up, left hand up, right hand down, left hand down. Twist your body. Right hand on your head, left hand on your head. Okay, now right hand on your mouth. Please settle down.
I'm giving you the chits, all right? Keeping it here. You'll pick one chit and go back to your places. As we are doing random pairing.
The new norms are working in random pairs to accelerate their learning, asking questions to enhance their critical thinking, and taking turn to instill a sense of character building.
Children, today we are going to learn something new. This is tense, okay? What is this? Clap is tense and one snap is once, okay? So, this is 20, 30, yes, and this is 22, okay. Now, Agrim and Abdul, can you come forward? Yes. Can you show how this will be done? Okay, try. Okay, Agrim. Now your turn.
Good.
Well done.
I will look at the clock and you get the number. Okay. 31. It's your turn. Okay. $32. Correct.
Done. Now you will do. Come on, do it with your partners. Go back to your place.
Wow. Okay, great. So that was really good to see how the ALfA classroom unfolds, how it goes from step to step, from starting from the energizer all the way up to the point where kids are making questions for each other. And I want to ask you this in the chat. Maybe you could respond. Why do you think it's beneficial? We've talked about this briefly, but why is it beneficial for kids to be making questions for each other? Obviously, the alternative is we could just have a textbook which has 50 questions, and you just, I remember these textbooks from my childhood. There's, so many questions. You can spend hours and hours solving the questions from the textbook. So what would be the advantage of kids making questions for each other rather than just solving from the textbook? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the chat. And until then, let me ask your thoughts, Samvida ma'am. You saw there the way that the kids were making questions for each other. What do you think? What's the benefit of it?
I think the questions here stimulate discussion and creative and critical thinking, as well as determine how a student is thinking out here. And as far as ALfA goes, we do not determine a good teacher in whose class the children answer the maximum questions. Instead, we look for how well the children respond to learning through questions that have been made by their own mind.
Right. So when they're making questions with their own mind, they're much more deeply engaged with it. It sounds like they're making so many questions to form a question bank. It seems like they're actually really enjoying the process.
Exactly, because they retain the material in their mind, when they're making it themselves,
Right, definitely, yeah. And I think it seems like it's a more creative process. They're actually more deeply engaged, right? Just solving an addition problem, 45 plus 19 is one thing, but actually coming up with your own problem and sharing that with your partner, that's a much more interesting activity. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the chat, and I'm just going to have a look at what some of you are saying. What are the benefits of children asking each other questions? We saw that was the final stage after the teacher has normalized the class, after they've given a demonstration, after a pair of kids have come forward and given a demonstration, then the kids are making their own questions for each other. So what do you think? What are the advantages of this? And Vansh is saying students can think and answer on their own. That's right. Absolutely. Looking forward to hearing others' thoughts also. Carrying out deeper learning, right? Yeah, absolutely. So they understand it more deeply because they're making the questions themselves. Her or his, this is from Samin Siddiqui, her or his conversation skills are more developed and confidence level grow up more. Absolutely, right? It's a form of active learning. The kids are making their own questions for each other. Their confidence is also improving. There will be a variety of questions. It'll enhance their critical thinking skills. Totally right. So they're composing their own questions. In writing, they're writing their own things. They're not just copying from the textbook. In maths, they're making their own problems. So it's much more deeply engaging. This critical thinking, it increases the logical thinking power. Their intelligence is well used. It encourages being inquisitive. Beautiful.
Rhonda is from Beirut. She's teaching Syrian refugee children.
Wow, incredible, Rhonda. Hats off to you.
Yeah.
So it encourages inquisitiveness, absolutely. Challenges their ability. They get motivated to do more and more. They enjoy posing challenges for each other, and the learning process is gamified, which makes it an enjoyable process, right? So the kids enjoy challenging each other. I have a sense of satisfaction when I create a difficult division problem, which my partner struggles to solve. It feels good, right?
I made a difficult one for you, right? Right. Yes, that's true. By the way, I just want to acknowledge here, Randa Ajami is here. She's the director and founder of Borderless NGO out of Beirut in Lebanon. And very recently, we have been training her team and empowering them to implement ALfA in her programs for the refugee children of Syrian populations that have moved there. And she's doing remarkable work. I just want to acknowledge that. And she kind of immediately sort of lapped onto the idea of ALfA. And we are so happy to be of help and support to her. She'll be doing all the work. We have passed on the idea to her. But what she did also was very nice that, she got the version of the toolkit she downloaded and managed to print it and laminate it for her children. So that can be used for a long, long time to come. And also the entire program is zero carbon or very low carbon. So for example, in the schools that we have been sharing the video from, as you have seen, not the village one, but the city schools that we've been working with, none of them have a printed book. They don't even have laminated sheets. They have nothing. They only have an electronic ebook that they put up on the screen. The book is itself just converted to ebook. They put it on their screen, and the children just look at it and they know what their task is and they get on with it. The teacher reads out the prompts or brings some children to the front to read the prompts, and the children understand their prompts as well. So it's zero cost and zero carbon. When it comes to printing, we prefer it's not printed, but if you have to print, then you can do like she did or like Tom does, and Tom will explain how he has done it. The other way you can do it is shared as a shared resource, so it rotates between classes. But I'd like to share with you, let's say just for numeracy, 32-page booklet is not just for me, it is for me and Tom together. We are working on the 32-page booklet. So it has a carbon impact of 16 pages. If that is rotated or used another year with another set of children, the carbon impact is just 8 pages. Imagine you're doing grade 3 mathematics with 16 pages, and that's all for grade 3. That means you don't need to do in kindergarten, 1, 2, and 3. Those 4 years, you're only spending 16 pages worth of material. So, I'm really grateful to Randa for taking this up and her entire team. Please say hello to all of them. And I'm so happy that you're here with us today from Beirut.
We are indeed lucky that people over the course of this 3-day program, there's people joining us from around 45 different countries around the world, and within India, 27 states of India. So that's terrific. And we are so excited to be taking this movement worldwide. As I was mentioning earlier, we want and we need your help for this. Right? There's only so much we can do sitting here in Lucknow. We need your help to take this forwards to the furthest corners of the country and of the world. And we need your help as well to replicate this material in more different languages. So we've got currently the numeracy book and the literacy books are available in some 30 languages, national and international languages, but we want to replicate it in many more languages. So if you're able to help us with this, please do be in touch. Now, as we move forwards to the final part of today's training, I want to discuss this point of we've been talking about us giving feedback to the students, right? We've been talking about encouraging rather than praise, but just as important is us taking feedback from the students. And by that, I mean understanding what their level of learning is, whether we've succeeded in our job as teachers of helping them grasp the concept or not, right? And if we don't do this, we're a bit like a pilot flying blind because we don't know where we are heading. So it's very important that we get immediate feedback from our students to understand what they have learned, what they haven't learned, and especially who is struggling, who needs further help. Feedback should be instant, not delayed. So the most common form of feedback, unfortunately, in the traditional education system is using exams, right? So in an exam, I'll fill in my exam, but then it'll often take me 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get the marking back. Now, by the time I get my mark back, I'm not actually interested. I'm not going to go through the paper and see exactly where I went wrong. And we've moved on from that module anyway. So the feedback is not actually useful at all, right? Whereas the type of feedback we're talking about here is instant feedback, immediate feedback, so that it can be used to correct the learning process. So how can this happen? Well, another very common form of feedback in the traditional classroom is for me to ask a question and say, okay, everybody who knows the answer, please raise your hands. Now, the problem with this, well, let me ask you, Sunita, what's the problem with that? If we just ask everybody who knows the answer to raise their hands, what's the problem with that as a form of feedback?
Well, as you all know as teachers, that some children are very eager to raise their hands. They're constantly the ones saying, me. You have not even finished the question and they have the answer. And some of them permanently have their hands up because they know the next question that will come, I'll be the one to be able to answer. It's delightful. It's wonderful. But what's happening with the majority of the class? They're not participating. They're just watching what's going on. It's like a nice show going on. They're not processing the question you have given them. It's too instant that they're responding. So there's no thinking time. And therefore, the number of possibilities of mistakes are much more. In fact, you say, okay, Joanne, you answer this. And Joanne answers it. And she happens to get it right. So they say, okay, great, Joanne, well done. Now you feel good. What is everybody else doing? They're just watching Joanne. Did she get it right? Did she get it wrong? Now, if by chance Joanne gets it wrong, so you say, okay, sit down. Somebody else tell me the answer. Now they say, oh, Joanne got it wrong. Look, somebody else will try, right? But they're not processing the question. They're not dwelling on the question. They're not spending time, thinking time on it. That's wrong. Other thing that's wrong is that you as a teacher is not getting the feedback. You don't know how many of your kids know. You just know that Joanne knew or did not know. Or 5 of you kids knew and 5 did not. Most of the children don't respond because they've learned that it doesn't matter because the teachers are going to ask me anyway. Some teachers do this, popsicle sticks in a jar, or they take out one at a time and they make sure that over a period of a week, all my classes covered, that everybody gets to answer. But that one time, at a time, you're only going to get 1 or 2 children. So how to get everybody on the task of answering the question you've just posed? You don't have much time. So get everybody to answer every question. How do you do that? Secondly, and this Tom will share with you how, the secondly is that you as a teacher should know, okay, 1/3 of my class does not know, or half my class does not know, a majority of my class does not know, or is it just 4 or 5 children who don't know? Accordingly, you can choose the next level of response. We say if up to half the class doesn't know, choose the half that knows and say, okay, everybody pair up and teach each other, rather than you teach from the front again. As much as possible, you shift the pairs, even 1/3, just shift them to others who will be able to teach them. When it becomes majority of the class doesn't know, even then, try some other technique. You say, okay, give you tonight, everybody prepare, tomorrow let's see how it goes. And then you try to increase the numbers in a different way. Let them struggle, let them come up with the solutions, and they enjoy it ever so much. But if you absolutely have to, nobody has a clue, nobody can figure out, well, that's when you come in, okay? Till then, you don't need to.
And I think even there, when you come in, it's not like, okay, I'm just going to teach in exactly the same way again. You're going to use a different way of teaching the same concept. If the majority of your class hasn't understood, for example, if the clapping and snapping activity was ineffective in teaching place value, then we're not going to keep trying over and over again if it's just not working. We're going to use a different activity. We're going to use our ice cream sticks and matchsticks. Whatever concept there is, there's a whole variety of activities we can use for it. So if it's not working for the majority of the class, then definitely try again with a different activity. As Sunita was sharing, if it's only a couple of kids who are struggling, then please just make fresh pairs and you don't be the teacher, let them teach each other. But the first step of this whole process is, yes, how do we take that feedback in a way that we understand the whole class's learning level? We understand each child, whether they've understood or not. And so it's very, very simple, really. It just requires that we ask a question, and instead of having a show of hands, we give some options. We make it a multiple choice question, and we say, okay, everybody who thinks option A, put your hand up. Okay, now hands down. Everybody who thinks option B, put your hand up. Now hands down. Now here, of course, we will need to normalize the class, because what will often happen is I'll be like, okay, I know Sunita's the smart girl in class. I'm just seeing when does she raise her hand? I'm going to raise my hand at the same time. So we don't want that to happen. We need to normalize the class, which means emphasizing that it's not a test. There's no reward. There's no punishment. It's not about who got the right answer, who got the wrong answer. It's just about respond honestly, whatever you think the answer is. It's not about copying others. So once we normalize the class in this way, this can be a very fun, quick, and effective way to get feedback from the whole class to understand their learning level. So that's what we're about to do. Okay, we're not here physically present, but you're in the chat box. So you can essentially raise your hand in the chat box. This is annoying. I hope nobody saw that. Okay, so this is the question for you to respond in the chat box. Okay, it's a maths question, of course, because we're talking about numeracy today. So right now, I am 3 times older than my sister. In 2 years' time, I will only be twice as old as her. How old am I now? So I want to hear your response in the chat box, option A, B, C, or D. Okay, so you can just respond in the chat box, option A, B, C, or D. This will allow me to check the learning level of my class, how you are at solving these sorts of kind of, I guess it's an algebra question, you would say. So am I 3 years old, 6 years old, 9 years old, or 12 years old? Can you please post the question in the chat as well? Yep. So right now I'm 3 times older than my sister. In 2 years, I will only be twice as old as her. So how old am I? Waiting to hear your responses in the chat box. I hope it's a fun question for you. Of course, the point is not so much the question. The point is demonstrating this process of instant feedback. And I see, I'm looking around the room, lots of people are feeling nervous. Lots of people are feeling shaky about their algebra skills. And I'm waiting for the comments to come in. That's good. I'm glad I've posed a question that's requiring a little bit of thought.
This is what the children will require to do in their own classes.
So think it through, aram se. Just take your time. If you're in a pair, then ask them, work together. It's a bit of a number riddle. Right now, I'm 3 times as old as my sister. In 2 years' time, I'll only be twice as old as her. So how old am I right now? I'm waiting to see your responses in the chat. And I hope you're all frantically scrambling. Okay. One is saying 12. Great. The first response in. Excellent. Thanks, Van. Now, no copying of each other's answers. I want to hear your own genuine thinking and response.
It's a different answer now from Atiya Arshad.
Okay, great. And this is good. It's showing that it's working, because if I just ask one person to answer, I'll only get the knowledge of one child, one person, whether they understood it or not. But as it is, I'm going to hear from a lot of people. So Van and Anwar said 12. Atya, Renu, and Art said 6. Rajneet, and I'm like, okay, Joanne said 6, so I'm going to copy her. Asia, that's good. Somebody's saying 9. Great. So we're getting a diversity of responses, and that's what we want, right? As a teacher, we want to be able to see the diversity of responses. We don't want everybody to follow each other. I'm looking to my co-panelists here. I want to see their responses, but they're feeling pretty nervous. They don't want to get this wrong on live YouTube.
PhD in physics.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
No, you can't say that.
Janta Mukherjee, oh, good. I'm glad I've posed. It looks like I posed a pretty tricky question. I'm glad for this. And Chanchal, so it looks like most people are saying either 6 or 12. Okay, very good. So, oh, now we've got the full diversity of responses. Some people have got 3.
Dyslexic, so I can't do that.
Okay. Sunita's making an excuse for herself. She's saying she's a bit dyslexic. But this, but
a lot of kids might be dyslexic.
Lots of kids may be dyslexic.
Yeah.
And of course, the ALfA program is very effective for kids of a whole variety of learning styles, right? Learning styles, special needs. We've talked yesterday, there was a question about ADHD children. And we find that kids who may struggle to focus in a traditional classroom can often actually focus much better in an ALfA classroom because they're using their hands, because they're working with their peers. Farouk is saying it can't be any one of these options. Oh my goodness, now I'm actually feeling nervous that I haven't screwed up the question. I hope I haven't.
Now you show them how to solve it. Come on.
Okay, so this is great. This is great. And it gives me the sense that, you know, the majority of you did get it right, I think, but there's quite a diversity. So if this was my classroom, I would definitely be doing this concept again, using another activity. So let's have a look at the answer.
Can you do it with the sticks?
Yes. Okay.
Let's do it with sticks.
Okay. Sorry, PowerPoint is struggling a bit.
Oh, right.
So the answer, congratulations to whoever got this. The answer is indeed 6. So you can solve this if you like using your. It's kind of an algebra problem. So the way you can think about it, I mean, once you've got the answer, you can just plug it in and check that it works, right? So if I'm 6 now, then my sister is 1/3 of my age, so she's 2. So we're 6 years and 2 years, and then in 2 years' time, I will be 8 and she'll be 4. So I'll be now double.
But you didn't know she was 2, so you show it with ice cream sticks, please.
So okay, yeah. So now we're going to look at ice cream sticks and matchsticks.
You're doing process of elimination is one way.
So the process of elimination is one way.
Yeah.
So I've got I've actually I'm put on the spot here. I've never represented an algebra problem with these. So this is how I would represent it, right? If my age is y and my sister's age is x, so y equals 3x, that's the first statement, which is that I am 3 times older than my sister. And in 2 years' time, my age will be y plus 2, my sister's will be x plus 2, so it's 2 times x plus 2. So then you've just got these 2 equations, and you can solve that to see that x is 2, my sister is 2 years, I'm 3 times that, so I'm 6 years. So the main point, of course, is not the algebra, right? It's not the maths question. The main point is demonstrating this process of feedback, right? So I can get feedback. I hope you all had fun working on the question, and I really appreciate that it looks like you weren't copying from each other. It wasn't that everybody copied the first answer. You all try it yourself. Some of you got the right answer, some of you got the wrong answer, but that's not a problem, right? In an ALfA classroom, it's totally okay to get the wrong answer. The main point is, in fact, if I was a teacher, I would be like, okay, I need to work harder on what sort of activities I'm going to do.
This is the thing that happens after you get the feedback. You introspect. You don't say, oh, my kids, they're no good.
Yes.
You say, look, I could have done a better job. It's evaluation. Any evaluation that you do is not children's evaluation, it's your own evaluation.
Right. That's a really good point. So the feedback, this process of feedback, it's not so much testing my kids, it's testing myself. It's testing how good a job I've done of galvanizing a classroom where the kids have successfully taught each other. So yeah, that was a fun process of taking feedback. You can see in the classroom, there would be a variety of ways to do that. You could give them the options and you could say, okay, everybody who thinks option A, raise your hand, then option B, raise your hand. Another way to do it would be, you could say, everybody take a sheet of paper and write your answer, big font size, right? Write B or D or whatever, and then everybody at the same time hold your paper up so that we can see and get a quick visual snapshot of how many got the right answer or not. So there's a variety of ways to do it, but the key point is the feedback should be instant. It shouldn't be like an exam, right? And it should be for the whole class, not just I'm going to choose one kid to answer, because then I don't understand what others have understood or not. So that's terrific, and it's been such a enjoyable session. I'm so glad how well you've engaged in the chat box. It seems like you've all given these activities a try yourself. You've asked really good questions. You've made really good comments. So now, as we move to the end, we're about to come to a quiz, right? In which we're going to, again, it's a form of instant feedback. You know, we're going to we're going to check what you've learned from the training. And it's not so much evaluating you, it's evaluating us. And it's evaluating this format of online training, whether it was effective or not. So before we go to the quiz, I want to just have a very quick recap of the key points we've been discussing today. So let's maybe take one of these points each and flesh it out a little bit. So 5 key principles that we've discussed today. If you only remember 5 things from today, let it be these 5. So the first point, children are working in pairs which are made frequently and randomly. Samvida, would you like to speak to this? Why are we changing the pairs frequently and why are we making random pairs?
Yeah, firstly, so that we don't label them. So and so is an excellent, above average, below average. Secondly, they do it randomly so that they work on the social skills, the 6 C's we talk about, the character, the creativity comes up and they're working with different children, different sets, the way they're being paired up.
Okay, great. So we're not labeling the kids, right? And they're getting the chance to be creative because they're working with different kids all the time. It's not with the same pair all the time. Okay, wonderful. Now the role of the teacher doesn't guide, but rather just reads the prompts and the children that provide the learning materials, but the teacher is not actually instructing the kids. The kids are helping each other, they're working with each other. Would you like to speak to that one, Sunita?
I think that teachers should be reading a lot more in their own time. If they're getting free time, let them just have a stack of books, a little library of their own, which they can read while the children are busy. They can observe once in a while, peep over and see how's my class doing. Everybody looks busy. That means it's a productive classroom. Struggle is productive, noise is productive. Children working with each other and engaged on a task is productive. Don't interfere. Just sit in a corner and read your own book. Now, that is a skill for sure, because we try to be the interfering teacher, the interfering parent, the interfering teacher. We're constantly correcting children. So let's not do that. So was that your question or something else?
Yeah, that's right. So let's let children struggle a little bit themselves. Yes. Let's let them teach each other rather than the teacher teaching them. Yeah. But however, an important role of the teacher is to normalize the class, which means to demonstrate the process. So it means that we can't just throw them out in the deep end totally, right? We need one demonstration, like we were doing with the division problem, right? We were demonstrating, we can call a pair of kids forwards and they can demonstrate for the class what to do, but then we're not actually explaining the concept per se. We're showing the process and then they're learning the concept themselves through the process.
Yeah, so normalization is going to be mostly at the beginning. It might take 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, doesn't really matter. You want children to understand a whole new way of conducting themselves in a class for maximizing their learning, which is the paired setting and asking each other questions, taking turns, using curtsies. In addition, normalization also would mean that the teacher is in her mind prepared in advance. So she knows, okay, next day, I think my kids can do another 3 or 4 modules. So let me prepare the environment. So that would also include asking children to bring certain things from home. And then preparing a little bit, just reading over the prompts. So, she's fresh with the prompts, doesn't have to refer to a book and keeps looking at the book. How many teachers can teach without a book, by the way?
Not many.
Keep looking at the book, then teach. And I think this is a habit. Well, this is something they don't need to do in ALfA, because the prompts are right on the screen. And if she has read the prompts before, she or he can teach, not teach, involve the children in understanding what their task is. So that's part of the normalization, that children try to understand what is it they have to do, and then they get on with it. They create the resources, they overcome the difficulties, they work together to solve problems, and this is the normalization process. Normalization also means use of courtesies. So the teacher has to show them, look, I'll model it for you. That's what she will do. To say, okay, Tom, you're going to ask the first question, I'm going to answer it. Then I'm going to ask the next question, you're going to answer it, right? And so on. So basically, that role modeling is done, and best done by the children themselves. You bring two children to the front, you preempt them in the beginning and share with them what they're supposed to do. They act it out. Children understand far more from the children. You alone, if you're alone, you can't role model that. So you can use puppets, as we've got here, or you can, many teachers use that for language, especially puppets, or you can have another teacher pop in just for a few minutes, or another child and you can pair.
Absolutely.
So there's so many ways. And Tom demonstrated another method, which is you in the middle and two kids on the side who are going to pair up. So we see what the pairs have to do from that. So whichever way, the teacher having the skill to get the children to understand, but normalization also means courtesies and behaviors.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just looking at the bottom 2 points, which we've just discussed recently, so children are making questions for each other, as you responded in the chat. That's crucial because it's helping them develop their creativity, right? So the ALfA process is not just about literacy and numeracy. Obviously, it is about that, but it's also about developing those 6 C skills of creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and so on. And finally, we're using a language of encouragement. We're not praising or reprimanding the kids. We're not comparing them against each other. We're not focusing on the marks. Instead, we're using a language of encouragement, which is helpful for all of the class, not just for some, and which is specific enough to actually be useful. So these are some of the key takeaways, which we hope you got from today. And one further thing before we move on to the quiz. Oh, okay. Yeah, so just if we recap and consider why ALfA, right? We've already touched on all of these points, but it's zero cost, it's zero carbon, right? You can use it, the E form of these materials, very, very low cost, low carbon. Even if you print it, right, it's very few pages. It's 10 times faster than old methods. We're talking about things that would take years to learn. Kids are learning in a matter of 1 or 2 months. It's embedding the 6 C skills, right? These are the 6 C skills here: communication, creativity. These are not things that we can teach from a textbook. We cannot I cannot tell Samvida, you should be more collaborative, or you should have a better character, right? Obviously, these are not something that you can learn from a lecture. These are things that you can only learn, you can only develop through practice, through interaction in a pair. And it's a very joyful, active form of learning. So this is kind of the key tenets of ALfA, why ALfA is so powerful. So we are almost out of time now. So I'm going to ask the link for the quiz will be put in the chat. And I just request you don't go to that just yet. Once the session finishes, please go to the quiz. And it's very important that when you go to the quiz, please sign in with your email, right? Please use your email to sign in. And it's just a short quiz, a couple of about 8 or 9 questions in the first part, which is testing the things we've been discussing today. Right? And then the second part of the quiz is an opinion survey. We want your feedback for the training today, whether it was effective or not, what could be done better. We want that feedback from you. Once you complete the quiz, if you get, I think, over 50% or over 80%, you'll get either a certificate of accomplishment or of participation. You'll also be getting access to the e-learning materials. So that's why it's really important to sign in with your email, because we'll be sending you the links to these materials so that you can use them in your own classroom. So once we wrap up, please do go and do the quiz. It's going to be a lot of fun. And quizzes, I also want to mention that quizzes is a really helpful platform. It's a fun way of getting that instant feedback that we're talking about. You can, if your kids have devices at their home, you can set them a quiz, and they can do it as homework, and you'll get instant feedback yourself sitting in your home. You'll get to see how your kids did. You can also analyze very easily how many struggled with this question, how many struggled with that question. So quizzes is a very useful platform. Quiz is offering a 3-month free subscription for all participants of this training. So take them up on that, give it a try. I think you'll find it really enjoyable.
I want to say huge gratitude to quizzes because they allowed us to use their platform, but not just that, they customized it for our needs. they have a very beautiful platform that not only provides feedback, but it allows you to revisit the question and reattempt it. There's one thing we were discussing yesterday, that sometimes it is better to ask a question rather than teach. A difficult question for that matter, like Tom just did, a very difficult question. For most of us, we would be wondering, looking sideways, how do we do it? Of course, we know some bit of algebra, we know you can put an X and a Y, but let's say you didn't know that, that's okay. So what happens is, for example, if Joanne is here with us, and I want to acknowledge her presence, she has come from Chicago, and she is the director for Literacy Chicago, director for program development at Literacy Chicago in Chicago. And Literacy Chicago has also been using ALfA for adult literacy. And I'm so delighted that she could make it to India and be with us and encourage us and give us feedback as we are presenting all this here. So let's say none of you knew anything about Joanne. I know a little bit. I'm also discovering a lot more. And you knew nothing about her. Let's say we gave you a quiz on Joanne. So Joanne, what does Joanne like to eat? What color is her favorite color? What color hair does she have? Okay. Now you see her. Okay, the color part you can see. But what kind of, how many friends she has, whatever. You ask her emptying questions. Where does she like to travel? What's her favorite book? Let's ask 15 questions about Joanne. You'll probably not know anything about it. You'll just guess. And the class average would be something like 25%. It's all based on guess. Nobody knew Joanne before, right? Now, Joanne comes and tells about herself, or you talk about Joanne, or Martin Luther King, or anybody else. You talk about them. And after that, the children are now listening. Actually, you've just converted them from being not curious and teachers just talking, telling, to now curious kids. Like, hey, I want to know this Joanne person. I want to know what she likes to eat. So when she comes to India, we can feed her that, or something like that, right? So you have these now you're engaged. You've got an engaged audience of children. And once you've told about Joanne, guess how much the results go up. So we've done this activity in quizzes. And I want to thank John Caripo, who is the founder of Edu Protocols in the US, who came here in February of 2022 at my invitation. I was really grateful. And he shared with his brilliant pedagogy or methodology called Edu Protocols. And he did just that. He just talked, he did a quiz on himself that none of us knew, of course, about him. What a way to introduce himself, right? Instead of saying, I'm so-and-so, I do such and such, I've come from such. He just gave us a quiz. We all answered the quiz. And then he talked about himself. We all intently listened. And then the class average went up to above 90%. So a lot of things we can do that way, just the backwards way of teaching.
So starting off with the quiz, not finishing with the quiz, but actually starting with the quiz, because that really spurs interest in whatever topic you're discussing.
Yes, even unknowns. You don't know anything about it. You can learn that way.
Absolutely.
You're more intent, you're listening.
So on that note of questions, right, we now would like to invite any further questions from you as we're wrapping up this training. Any questions, any comments? I would love to hear your thoughts on the training. What's something new, something interesting that you are taking away from today? Any suggestions for us as to how we can improve this? Was this online format effective for you? Was it useful? Any feedback at all from today's training? Any questions that you have remaining? Please post them in the chat box. We're going through that, and I'm going to pull up some of the best ones for us to address verbally. So the quiz, need not be done now, right? We're just going to finish up the training in about 5 minutes, so then you can go and do the quiz. That would be great. So yeah, any suggestions for how we can do better, do this training better? Any takeaway points that you're going to take away and you're going to start implementing in your classroom? And so as we're waiting for responses to come in, I'm just going to read out a few. So Ananda said, thank you so much. I learned a lot with fun. Thanks for the amazing session. That's great.
So I have a question afterwards.
So yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks for the wonderful session. Thank you. And we want also your honest feedback as well. We want your suggestions for improvement too, please. This was a wonderful, engaging, and informative session. A lot has been discussed. All questions have been addressed so politely and wonderfully. Thanks, Nimi. That's lovely of you. Okay. Great. So, Sunita, I'll turn to you while we're waiting for more questions to come in. Would you like to offer any final thoughts as you're thinking about ALfA, the way forwards? what would you like to leave us with?
Right. So we have been doing online training. And my question is that, do you think there are takeaways for you? Do you think this was engaging enough that you didn't feel like turning your face away and doing something else? Do you feel that this is a fine modality, may not be perfect, a fine modality, so we can actually continue to offer massive open online training and make it effective for people to reach ALfA 2 with it, to them with it? What is your view? Of course, you can write a view, but you can also say yes, no, maybe, or perhaps whatever. Well, let's say just 3. Yes, if you agree this is a good modality or good enough modality. No, this doesn't work. It's not going to work in the future. And maybe, well, you're ambivalent about it. So could you please put a yes, no, or a maybe about this particular methodology or modality of reaching out to you with our ALfA message? How many, okay, answer that first, and then I have another small question for you.
So waiting for your responses in the chat box to that question of specifically looking at this form of training, because this is also new for us, looking at training via YouTube. So did this work? We are trying for maximum interaction through the chat box, but is that interactive enough? It's obviously different from a physical training. It's different from a Zoom training where we get to see your lovely faces. Here we don't get to see you. We just get to read your messages. So looking forward to your responses to that, and also anything about what you're taking away from today's session. That's a good point that Joanne is raising, that Literacy Chicago is also going to use this program with your adult literacy students. So this program does not have...
They're already using for literacy. She said for maths concept.
For maths, you're about to start using.
Yeah, they've already been using literacy.
So age is no bar here. We've seen very young students using this. It's also very relevant for adults as well.
And it's surprising how many adults have that problem, not just in India, but in the US, for example. True. And Joanne has been telling, I'm sorry, yes, she's been telling me this.
Yeah, definitely. Nimi saying, one point I take away is to make the classroom a joyful place to learn and grow rather than making it a controlled space. Beautifully said, Nimi. Totally agree. So sometimes we need to relinquish a degree of control. Yeah. Is there a transcript of this session? This is from Chris. How do I show to associates your wonderful session? Wow, thanks, Chris.
Chris is in New York.
Chris is from New York. Okay,
he's been a big supporter. He's part of our global advisory committee.
Lovely, thanks, Chris. So yes, the recording of this session will be available on YouTube very shortly, and I think we can share a transcript as well, probably. Mary is saying, hats off. Thank you for the innovative practical session. Hats off to Sunita and the team. Great.
Yeah, but I want to know, would you want to come back to such a training? That's my question. Do you think this training helps you, this modality? Because we can't go everywhere, and we can't have, certainly, I think between the sessions yesterday and today, we'll have covered some 10,000 people. Some are in the sessions, some are coming and going from the sessions, some are going to watch it later, and hopefully majority of them will take the quiz. But 10,000 people got to know about ALfA one way or the other, and we were able to reach our message. But was it possible that you learned things that were really helpful to you or somewhat helpful to you, but nevertheless was this modality working for you of online teaching, training?
So Saurabh Dikshit is saying, yes, it's an interactive session indeed. Looking forward to more sessions like this. I learned a lot. So that's great. That's a good endorsement. Van Wong is saying, I like random pairs. That's great. Yeah, please do try that out in your classroom. Mary is saying, yes, great. Would love to attend such sessions. Okay, great. So the message is overall positive. If you have your suggestions or you're feeling that, okay, it's not working so well, or this is something we could improve, we also want to hear about this because this is new for us too. People should have a link or email to send follow-up questions. Okay, that's a good point. So can you please post the address for our website, dignityeducation.org, in the chat box? You can get in touch with us via that if you have follow-up thoughts, follow-up questions, and also we will be getting your email when you do the quiz. We'll be getting your email from that, so we can be in touch with you.
There's one other way that you can be on a WhatsApp group with us. So you can send us WhatsApp messages on +91. This is a Davy number. It is also on a WhatsApp. So +91, that's the country code, 740-840-6000. 740-840-6000. So you can please send us your classroom pictures of you implementing ALfA. It'd be a delightful thing to do. In fact, we wanted to set up something like that. I'm so glad that Nosheen, wait, who asked the question? Nimi, I think. But very nice of you to ask that question. It's correct. We want to connect with you also. And we want to see your video pictures. Like we've got these, this whole video from Shamli has come because teachers posted their videos from their classrooms.
And I see that this is a really good suggestion by Chris. Can you turn this session into, for example, 22-minute pieces so that people can clarify which parts to put together? 3 hours is a long time for some, so we need short highlights. Yeah, good point. So 3 hours is a long time for an online session. I acknowledge that. So yeah, we can definitely pre-package this in short bites. It's a good thought.
It's a very powerful thought. Thank you, Chris. That's correct.
Chanchal is saying, looking for offline sessions and to explore the world. So yeah, I also really enjoy physical in-person trainings. Of course, it's not always possible, but there is something to that. And that's why we need you as an ALfA trainer. We need you to be able to take the message further, to spread it to the furthest corners of the world and of India. So if you are interested in joining us as an ALfA trainer, please do reach out via our website.
We can wrap up now and say words of gratitude to everyone who's involved. All of you, first and foremost, for being with us for 3.5 long hours. Well, that's, it's like a packaged meal. It has got everything in it, curry in a hurry. It's got the masalas and it's got the ingredients, it's got everything in it, and instructions how to do it. So we wanted to do it very quickly because we feel that, okay, we could have broken it up into 3 days and that would have been very laborious. Just like all our books and materials and processes are very simple, and we wanted to make the training simple and less work, of less visuals and less so much in terms of training. Also, we want to make it very effective. All the training that Shamli teachers have got is for 1 day. All the training that Sambal teachers have got for 1 day. Half a day for literacy, half a day for numeracy. So in fact, only 6 hours, 3 hours and 3 hours. In online, because we have to do a little more gesturing and we are doing certain other things like we cannot do in a physical setting. They're also there. The advantages, for example, we're able to take you inside the classrooms. In a physical setting, if we bring you a lot of videos, you'll probably not be very happy. So here you put up with that as well. But 3.5 hours to create a new chapter in literacy of the children is not much at all. And then 3.5 hours for numeracy, again, is not much at all. Gratitude to you first and foremost, then gratitude to Joanne for coming from Chicago and being with us and keeping us alert and engaged and critical in our thinking. Being here, it's really valuable to us. We want to thank all my background team of people who've been working day and night. For example, to create the quizzes connection, I want to thank them, of course, is Saurabh Kumar. He's working with us for many years now, and he is, an amazing support. Manish in the IT team. We've got Mukesh Sharma sir in the academic team. We've got so many people in the academic team who have been backing us up in terms of supporting schools. Saurabh does a lot of that, supporting schools in their assessments and so forth. I want to thank R.K. Singh ji and his entire team of people who are sitting here. Can you please show the camera of all our people here who are sitting, with the computers and who are, basically with it. I want to thank Nishant Jaiswal, who is a teacher otherwise of physical education at City International School in Lucknow. He is also pretty tech savvy, so we have been asking him to be the liaison between ALfA processes and technology. So he's the conduit. We've got Sami here, who's our social media person. He's the one who's putting up all the comments that you're making on the screen. He's glued to the screen. We've got, of course, people from this side also, Cherian, and all the people from Mr. R.K. Singh's team. We've got the CMS staff that has been very busy. I want to thank the two principals of Gomti Nagar Campus 2, Ma'am Manjeet Batra and Sangeeta Banerjee, ma'am, who have been absolutely tremendous support. They're the ones who said, let's go do it. Ma'am Batra first came to see it happening at City International School, and thought it was actually quite engaging, and she found it interesting. She said, let's try it out in Gomtinagar too, City Montessori School. So that's where it began. And so I'm grateful to her eternally for doing this, as well as Sangeeta Banerjee ma'am, who's just so positive about the whole thing and so supportive. Then I want to thank Smita ma'am and Ruchika ma'am, who are the coordinators of grades 2 and 1 respectively. Each one of them has 450 plus children. So grade 1 has 450 children in their campus, and grade 2 has 450 children. So they're like principals of their own schools in a way. They're so, looking after so many kids, and they've been very supportive, very much at the on the side of ALfA, and the teachers. I want to thank the 8 teachers who participated in the pilot, if you like, at a well-known private school. With all that comes with being well-known and with being the best school, you don't want to try out new things, but they did. And this was in the middle of the session, as Samita ma'am has said. It was in November that they started, and in her campus, it was 39 days. I want to thank Samita ma'am, who's been absolutely behind the scenes, working day and night to prepare for tomorrow's policymakers conclave. And she is a fantastic organizer, planner, executor, and a motivator. So she's motivated, galvanized her teachers to do the ALfA program, and her coordinator, Sharmishta, as well as her 2 teachers, Shangrila and Ritu, class 2 and class 1 in that context. And I want to thank Tom, okay, our youth volunteer, Tom, from Australia. And there are many special things about Tom. For example, he now is fluent in Hindi and fluent in Urdu. He can write both Urdu and Hindi. And he is going to help us conduct the training in Hindi on 14th and 15th as well. So, can you imagine Tom, and he lives in a slum. How many of us privileged people will want to choose to go and live in a slum? He could easily afford to live not in a slum, but he's living in a slum, because that's when you get to know the real situation. He lives simply, near zero carbon. He's written a book on near zero carbon. He's most accomplished person we know. We've also written a book together, and with some other people, Mashood Alam Bhatt, part of my team, Jonathan Hakim. I want to thank him. As we are working on this, he's helping me write the ALfA book. So the next book we're coming out with is the ALfA book. This book is called Disruptive Literacy. The one we just published last year is called Disruptive Literacy. And this has a lot of really amazing things that if governments follow, we can actually make the world literate. It's not just about ALfA, it's about processes and policies and so many other things. It's available on Amazon. It's published by Bloomsbury, India. The ALfA book, Jonathan is helping me write. He's also living in a slum. He's an American teacher who came to India and is helping India, in so many ways. His wife, Rose Hakim, want to thank her, and the little girl who's staying in the slum with them, beautiful, gorgeous little girl staying in the slum with them. They're courageous. They're amazing people. Okay, so that's just some of them, but I also want to thank the hosts. That is City Montessori School, my own parents, Dr. Jagdish Gandhi, Dr. Mrs. Bharti Gandhi, and I want to thank Professor Geeta Kingdon, who is the CEO of City Montessori School. I want to thank everyone from City Montessori School. We are sitting in a CMS campus here, Station Road branch, and next to it a facility for offices where we have this conference room. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for being such an excellent and such interactive participating group. Thank you very much for being there.
Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. Mm-hmm. 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 Look for the good in everything. Look for the people who will set your soul free. It always seems impossible until it's done. Look for the good in everyone. People done gone crazy. People done gone mad. People done forgot the superpowers we all had. We were born to love, not hate. We can decide our fate and look for the good in everyone and celebrate all our mistakes if there's a silver lining. You still have to find it, find it, find it. Look for the good in